citizens against harmful technology.
Okay, great. All right, hold that thought for a minute because we're going to be beginning the broadcast. Daniel, you want to introduce us and just let all the single parents out there know what's going on here, what we're doing?
Yes, thank you for joining Studio 1776. I'm Daniel Leach, your host this evening. I'm joined by Eric Hughes-Jones, the Freedom Screamer from Courtroom Watch, Dave Pruitt of Pruitt's Tree Resin, and there's a few other people here who I'm not familiar with. But, Eric, I'll let you introduce some people here for the program this evening.
Thank you, Daniel. Yeah, thank you for doing this, Daniel. This is a huge case, everybody. This is a big one. The enemy is playing hardball, and we cannot let them get away with what they're trying to get away with against our friend, Mr. Micheal Large, L-A-R-G-E. Micheal Large is an older gentleman who brought forth evidence of government corruption to his congressmen and other people in positions of authority, and was summarily scooped up by the local police, who broke his window at his house, came in and handcuffed him and took him away to a psychiatric hospital on what's called a 302 mandatory psychiatric hold, and he's locked in a room at the psychiatric institution right now. This is an honorably discharged veteran of the United States Air Force. So he served from 1970 to 1974 at the end of the Vietnam War. He's a nice gentleman. He's a real sweet, soft-spoken guy, and he's in a horrible predicament right now for doing nothing other than being a patriot, being a truth teller. So what I want to do is I want to let everybody out there know who's on the call with us tonight, and we're going to be posting this anywhere and everywhere. So I encourage all our followers at courtroomwatch.com, the Anti-Illuminati Party, Single Parents Helping SingleParents.org, and anybody else out there, make this go viral. And put hashtags, do what you have to do, send emails, make phone calls, write letters, send faxes, and think outside the box. We need help on this, and so does Mr. Micheal Large, who's unlawfully locked up tonight. By the way, the hospital is only allowed to hold him for 120 hours, and they're well past that time now. He needs to be released. So they're in default, and once again, we have another good patriot being kidnapped by some very evil people in the system who don't like truth tellers coming forward with evidence of government corruption and government psychological weapons programs that we know are being used. And it's time we put together a portfolio of all the university studies and the funded projects by Darpa and the private corporations and all colleges who are doing work for the military to interface the United States military soldiers and pilots with computers to enhance their performance. We'll get into that in a minute, but I want to welcome Chris Cave in Las Vegas. Chris is a brilliant scholar who's been on the Power Hour. He's been on Resurrect the Republic. He contributes a great deal to the Republic Broadcasting Network. He always gets involved when we need him for courtroom watch cases that come across our table. So we want to welcome Chris in Las Vegas. Thank you for joining us. We also have our main man, Dave Pruitt, from Pruitt's Tree Resin in Missouri. Dave has run one of the largest militias in the country. He's a firearms expert. He's a martial arts expert. He's a legal expert. He's exercising the right to travel with success in Missouri. And Dave is a phenomenal friend of freedom who has a company called Pruitt's Tree Resin.com, and we encourage people to support the good guys at Pruitt's. Want to welcome Romola D. Romola D brought this case to my attention along with our friend Heidi, who's also on the line tonight. So I want to welcome Heidi in Minnesota. And I want to welcome Romola D. If you just go on YouTube, Romola has hundreds of YouTube videos and thousands of subscribers. She's doing stellar work in this field of psychokinetic weapons and alternate technologies that are being used against American people, because the government cannot get away with testing and experimenting on foreigners. They can't do it in France. They can't do it in Africa. They can't do it in India or Japan. But they can legally experiment on American citizens, and it's part of the federal statute. Chris might be able to pull that out of his wonderfully full brain filled with all kinds of facts and figures about the
Case Code 2358, the Strom Thurmond National Defense Authorization Act, 1961.
Fantastic. We're going to have you repeat that slowly in a few minutes, okay? Don't forget to give us that. The Strom-Thurmond National Defense Act of 1961 legalizes the experimentation on U.S. citizens by the U.S. military and private corporations who are contracted by the U.S. military. So we're paying for our own demise with our tax dollars, and that's insidious. So who did I forget? Oh, we also have Miss Powers. I want to let her introduce herself because I didn't quite get her first name. She's new to our situation, and I want her to explain what she does in her capacity. So Romola, Dee, Miss Powers, Heidi, Chris in Las Vegas, we got Dave Pruitt, we got Daniel Leach, and if I forgot anybody, just remind me, but we're hoping we're going to stack up a whole bunch of people to help out Mr. Micheal Large. That's our objective. That's our goal tonight. We're bringing out facts. We're bringing out truth. We're exposing corruption, and we're going to free a patriot from a psychiatric hospital, and this is going on all over the country. We all know the cases. Anybody who follows what we do at courtroomwatch.com and Single Parents Helping Single Parents is familiar with the Anna Taylor case, the Solange Martinez case in the Bronx, Tanya McCash in California, and a host of other patriots and people who simply are standing up for themselves in court and bringing evidence of government corruption to people in positions of authority, and it always seems to come back to bite us because nobody in a position of power wants to help free us from some of these really corrupt and horrible programs that we're being subjected to. So I think let's do this. Let's start off with Romola D. Romola, introduce your friend Miss Powers, and you guys kind of give us the skinny on what's going on with Micheal Large from your end, and so go ahead, Romola.
Okay, definitely. Thanks, Eric. Thanks very much for having us all on the show. I'm so glad you pulled this together at such short notice. As people may know, I run both a media site and blog as well as a bunch of podcasts. The Everyday Concern Citizen, everydayconcern.net is my website, and the YouTube channel Eric has just told you about. It's Romola D Reports. And let me introduce Kizit Powers. She is a wonderful researcher and writer. She pulls together a regular newsletter. She runs the organization Citizens Against Harmful Technologies along with Neil Chevrier, and they do an incredible job investigating and reporting on all sorts of current-day technologies, which include directed energy weapons technologies and, psychotronic, which include psychotronic weapons, and neurotechnologies that unfortunately are being used on people today, that people in America and worldwide are reporting. Just people in the regular population have come forward to report the use of these very dark technologies on their persons. And what we can figure out from research is that a whole bunch of non-consensual experimentation is going on from the military, various branches of the military. That's the Air Force, the Navy, the U.S. Army, Darpa, etc. And, some of these are public domain contracts, but a lot of these may be hidden contracts that we don't know anything about. Certainly, it's very difficult to get information on field weapons testing. I've tried to do this with FOIA requests, etc. And then the other thing is also we're living in situations of exacerbated and extraordinary surveillance. So surveillance abuses are being run using these radar technologies, spectrum, sonic technologies, etc. So I'm so glad that Kizit is here. She has been able to speak to Micheal today. She called the hospital, I understand, and she has some information on something called the psychiatric living will to tell us about. So, Kizit, do please let us know what happened today and how you can help Micheal, how you've already helped him, I think.
Okay, I did call the hospital and went through a lot of calls that didn't go anywhere. But I did get the nurse's station pretty early in the day, and they didn't have a phone for him to use in his room, he said. So he does not have a phone in there to use. But the nurse let him talk on her phone or his phone. I don't know if it's a man or a woman. And I talked to him personally. And after a little while, when I told him I was Romola because that's the only word, he wouldn't know me. So I said I was Romola, and then when I got on the phone with him, I told him who I was and what I can do for him, and he gave me all his information. He didn't give me his doctor's name. We didn't get to talk too long because they took the phone away from him. In other words, they were nice to begin with, but they're not going to let too much happen. So I did. I asked him if I could prepare a letter to his doctor and the hospital, which I've done in the past, and that works. It scares them, gets them on the defensive, like, oh, we didn't do anything. But the quicker we can get him out of there, the better off he'll be. Because the last person I helped, she got implanted in the hospital. They implanted something in her arm, in her neck, and her brain.
Oh, my God.
So we need to get him out really quick. I've sent him a letter with some attachments to let him know what will be sent to the hospital. I don't know enough about his situation, how he's affected, his symptoms, if he has electronic harassment or stalking or both or whatever. So I just included a little bit of each and asked the hospital to release him because we know. I couldn't say I know him. I never lie in these things. I say he is in this situation and we need him out now. So I don't want to send that letter without hearing back from him, but since I don't know if he's getting his cell phone. So tomorrow, if I don't hear from him, I'm going to send a letter to the hospital anyway demanding his release. So all of us need to send a fax letter. It needs to be on paper to, I don't know the fax number yet. I'm going to look for it after this call. But I demand to his letter. His doctor name is, Romola, do you remember his?
Manning, I think. Dr. Manning.
Okay. I'm going to put Manning on there, or I'm going to put or doctor or nurse. And usually they have a patient advocate. So I'm going to address it to all of those, to the hospital, and say that this man has done nothing. He went to his, this is all I know, is that he went to his congressman and was discussing the problem, and they thought that since he said the word psychiatric or suicide or something, that maybe...
Suicide,
maybe they would...
I can tell you what exactly he mentioned, because that's something he talked to me about earlier. You know, basically his neighbors have been harassing him big time, and he's reporting basic targeting, you know, with directed energy weapon use on his body, you know, microwave pulse weapon hits, etc., and the neighbor harassment. So he's been trying to talk to his state representative, I think, for quite a while, Representative Thomas Mert in Pennsylvania, and he actually visited this guy 2 weeks earlier. And the representative was very open to him, actually, and even suggested sending him a form which he could fill out to ask for a cessation of what he said was U.S. federal electronic harassment. Now, I've never heard of such forms before, but this is what Michael told me, that the not the senator, I guess he's a state senator or a state representative, suggested that he fill out. So it sounded fine. It sounded like they had a decent conversation, and then he later was turned to the senator's aide, the representative's aide, and he spoke to him. And then after that, 2 weeks later, this happened, you know. So he was arrested by the police who broke into his house.
Now, can I interject? I'd like you to hold that thought for a second. I want to interject something here because this is very important. Many of these programs and forms that they provide you to fill out, and of course the representative will always greet you with open arms and a handshake. Hi, how you doing, Mr. Large? Hi, Ramona. Hi, Mr. Eric, the Freedom Screamers. Tell me what your problem is. Sure. Oh, really? Oh, boy, that sounds serious. Now, here's what the scam is. What they're doing is they're databasing all the people who are coming forward and speaking the truth and exposing. They're trying to find out where all the squeaky wheels are, so to speak. And then that information gets right over to the Central Intelligence Agency, the Federal Bureau of Idiots, and the Department of Homeland Gestapo, who proceed to open cases on us. And before you know it, the local police are kicking in your door and taking you off to the psychiatric institution. We had a situation in New York. I believe his name was Labowitz. He was, now get this, people, listen carefully. He was simultaneously, he had two positions. One of his positions was the head of the Rochester, New York Grievance Committee, where people who would have a grievance or a problem or some concern would go and air that out and look for help. And he was also simultaneously the head of emergency room placement at the local Strong Memorial Hospital. So he would find out who all the complainers were, who all the people were that had evidence of corruption and, you know, scalar weapons and all these things. and then have them placed through the emergency room into psychiatric hospitals, and Judge Littman, the head chief judge of the New York State court system, would rubber stamp and approve the incarceration, and people like Pat Kovalek are still incarcerated to this day. She's been in there for like 7 years, drugged out of her mind, locked up in the Shorewinds nursing home, and anybody that goes to try to take her out, which she wants to leave, is intercepted by the Rochester Police Department and told they have to leave or they're going to be arrested. So this is how they play the game, and I want everybody to know that if you have any ideas of going to somebody in a position of power or authority to help fix any of these problems, you're going to get yourself a quick ticket to the psychiatric hospital. So keep out of the system. Stay away. I hate to say this. I wish there was some place we could go, some good representative, a good congressman, a good senator, a good governor, a good chief of police. There aren't any. There's a few constitutional sheriffs out there who are standing up for people's rights, but they're few and far between. Dave Pruitt in Missouri, who's on with us tonight, is lucky enough to have one, blessed enough to have one, and there's several who stand out and come to mind, but they're very few, and you have to be careful about going to anybody like your state representative or your congressman or your senator, because they're going to give you a big smile, a cup of coffee, and then it's off to the witch's prison. So anyway, back to you, Romola.
Oh, my goodness, this is a very bleak picture you are painting, Eric. So, I have noticed many people have indeed been reporting that, when they write letters to their congresspeople or whatever, they don't get much of a response, or they just get a kind of a blank, form response. But I do know cases, I think Skizzer does too, that when you actually go to the local police, this is what happens. You get carted off on a 302. Yeah. Right, Skizzer?
Yeah.
Skizzer, could you clarify the purpose and power of the psychiatric living will for everyone?
Every TI needs one of these psychiatric living wills, because in case they do incarcerate you into a mental hospital, it keeps you from being drugged. It won't keep you from getting implanted, because they do that covertly, but excuse me, if it's notarized and has 2 witnesses, they cannot give you medication.
And is there something to clarify that if people sign any documentation at the psych ward that's locking them in, or are they supposed to refuse signing and demand to go to court? What's up with that?
I don't know about the demand to go to court. That might be against you. But they will ask you after they have to let you go if you will sign something that says that you are there voluntarily, like you came by yourself. That would be an admission that, yeah, I did this to myself, and it takes all the culpability off of them, which that you don't want to do. So, if they arrested him, clearly he didn't go by himself.
Caller, can you identify yourself?
My name is Skizit Powers, and the gentleman I'm with here is Neil Chevrier, and we have a nonprofit organization for about 3 years now on the Internet. It's Citizens Against Harmful Technologies, and our website is citizensaht.org. And the front page of it has a list of affidavits you can download, and the psychiatric living will is one of them.
Excellent.
What else?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the psychiatric living will, and it says things like, under no circumstances should I be subjected to psych hospitalization or treatments or procedures, including but not limited to drugs, operations, convulsive treatments, deep sleep treatments, and then I maintain my right not to have any psych evaluation or diagnosis based upon the DSM. Now, this is really interesting. Does this really work? Can people actually say, they can actually say, no, we are expressing a right not to have a psych evaluation?
Yes, there is also a legal sheet that you can refer to on the Internet. I don't know that I've been looking for the link that shows every state and the specific legalities of what they have to go through to psych evaluate. So if they didn't do this, they didn't do this, they didn't do this, you're out of there. They have no legal right to keep you if they didn't follow the rules. So for Tennessee, I have it for Tennessee. I sent it to him today through an email. I'm hoping that he can get his emails.
Good work. Chris, did you want to make a comment?
Well, yes, if you don't mind. I would observe that this psychiatric living will is tantamount to a durable medical power of attorney.
Yes, it is. It takes control of your own medical power, and it doesn't let them have it.
One of the things that I have learned that might be beneficial to those on the call is that anytime somebody wants your autograph, your signature, as they call it, sign of nature, some say that when you sign your name, you're putting a curse on yourself. So it's important to always preserve all your absolute natural rights. All absolute natural rights, explicit, preserved, not reserved. You want to be proactive, not reactive. And so this is a word they usually trick us up with and we want to reserve our rights, but we want to preserve them. That's important. The hierarchy of order is critical. Another aspect that may be worthy of consideration is what we're seeing. If you look, there are a couple of wise writings on the internet called Psychopolitical Warfare by Kenneth Goff, Goff, and another template or writing, a brief, if you will, by Labyrinthi, Laberenti, it may be Arenti, Labyrinthi Beria, Beria, called Brainwashing. And what this tells is that psychiatry, psychology, and so-called mental healing, mental meaning sick mind, is a communist plot to gain advantage and to punish or put out of commission any of your vexatious litigators, your enemies, your adversaries, anybody giving you a problem, causing you vexations. You can use these claims of psycho problems or mental illness to have them locked away, chemically lobotomized, murdered and injected. Murdered by Injection is a great book by Eustace Mullins, if those listening have any interest in learning about that stuff. The AMA was created to replace homeopathy, naturopathy, and other natural healing, and to subject people to continual treatments that they call care, like the celebration of care at Bohemian Grove, some would observe. And these are very, very dangerous substances, most of these so-called suicidal psychotropic chemicals that they give you while you're under their version of care, because the state has a financial interest. In fact, I was going to suggest when you mentioned this dual agent holding two different job capacities, having a severe conflict of interest, I substantially suspect that he has a financial interest or kickbacks at the very least coming from these places on these referrals to these psychomedical imprisonments and taking them quasi-medical hostage, because it is a false science, psychiatry and psychology, that you'll find under the Dahl-Bear analysis, the three-pronged test from GE versus Merrill Dow Pharmaceuticals Incorporated, which requires them to be observable, measurable, and repeatable to be quantifiable as third-party peer-reviewed actual evidence under Federal Rule of Evidence 702 in the court systems, in the federal courts. And they do not, any of those, make those tests. In fact, the so-called DSM-5, the Diagnostic Symptoms Manual of the so-called psychiatric trade of the American Psychological Society, which has gotten to be a very rogue and aberrant, deviant group, reactionist actuaries, is void for vague, because every term in there, if you read the preface is where they hide the operant terms on everything in the book that follows, says that they are all subjective, interpretive, vague, ambiguous, arbitrary, capricious, and predatorily avaricious, to take unfair illegal advantage of those they want to aim these word war art terms at. So it's really critically important that we examine these things and know these facts to offend and put off. I'm I'm defending myself again right now. I'm putting together what's called a condition precedent, a judicial notice to condition precedent, demanding they put forth the proofs of their authority to, there's a lot of other things we could go down, but a different class of a man on the land, not a U.S. citizen, and that I'm not under their scope and sphere of authority, and I have squarely challenged jurisdiction from the very get-go. They've attempted to murder me twice by mass assassination, by egregious abuse of deadly force, so I'm not new at this or inexperienced and combat tested, and I've prevailed once or twice before. A lot of it was with Eric and the Freedom Screamer and RBN and other lobbying effects by others on my behalf, thankfully, and cluing me in on several calls and doing quite a bit of due diligent investigatory work, revealing some of the deviosity, the criminality, the nefariousness, the despotism that operates within these so-called legal communities. And, of course, the bar itself was brought here by the American Communist Party, USA, back in the late 1800s, early 1900s in Chicago, Illinois. So with that, I'll make room for the other caller, the other great guests and knowledgeable people to contribute. Thank you. Unless there's questions.
Excellent presentation. That's Chris Cave in Las Vegas. I'll get you his information, you guys. When we get off this broadcast is going to be kind of posted as a public service and a public broadcast. So I'll give you Chris's information offline because I'm sure you want to talk with him. What a great presentation, Chris! Fantastic, and you must have read my mind, being the brilliant legal scholar that you are. I was thinking when you were talking about how far back psychiatry goes, the father of modern psychiatry is, drum roll please, and Daniel or Romola or anybody out there who's on a computer right now, type in the name Ernst Rudin. That's E-R-N-S-T, Ernst, and the last name is Rudin with two little dots over the U. And anybody wants to I'm not even going to tell you, I'm just going to say he was the top Nazi eugenicist of World War II under Hitler, and if somebody wants to just type it into something simple as Wikipedia, it'll read the first couple of sentences. Some people will be shocked who are not awake and not familiar with what we're all doing here. Other people will not be surprised at who this man is and how evil and the last person you'd ever want to entrust of all things, people's mental state, psychiatry, psychology. I mean, please. So, and he was the member of the Kaiser Wilhelm Society, which after World War, because of the support of the Nazi Party, had to change its name after World War II and simply got transferred into the hands of the OSS British, the foundations of the CIA, and it became the Max Planck Society. And we actually had a case recently of Anna Taylor in Connecticut, very similar to what Michael Large is going through. And Anna's doctor, her psychiatrist, was a man named Dr. David Mantell, who was a member of the Max Planck Society, formerly the Kaiser Wilhelm Foundation, top member, father of modern psychiatry, Ernst Rudin. And if anybody doesn't know what eugenics is, that means he wanted to exterminate a whole bunch of people who weren't of his liking. So not a good man. And I'll make the judgment through it. Oh, and by the way, how much money are they making, Chris? We just found out. Solange Martinez in the Bronx, we just got her out after 3 weeks. We got her out of it. She was going to be in there for 60 years was the number on the petition. And we got her out 3 weeks, with all of us together. And $2,000 a day per patient is what the hospital gets. So multiply, let's say they got let's say they got 50, let's just say like they got 50 to 100. A big hospital might have 100 patients in the psychiatric ward. Let's start with 100. That's kind of not too big of a number, but not too small. Now let's say 100 times 2,000 is what? Is that 200,000 or 2 million? Huh?
2 million.
2 million per day times 30 days. That's what, $60 million a month every 4 weeks.
That's pretty good ROI.
Yeah, if you want to talk to right. So, go ahead. Young lady?
Oh, what was the numbers? It was 100 times 2,000?
Yeah, if the hospital has 100 patients, I'm just picking that number out of thin air. If it's 50, it might be 200. But I was picking 100 as a general number because I think that would be close to the number that of psychiatric patients that are in a large psychiatric holding center, I would think there'd be at least 100, probably more.
200,000 instead of 2 million.
Well, times 2,000 a day times 100, I think is 2,000 times 100 is 200,000. You're right. So it's 200,000 a day times 30 days is $6 million a month. That's still a lot of change, and it's definitely plays right into what, it's a conflict of interest in a big way.
What was the name of the lady you got out in New York?
Her name is Solange Martinez. You can go to our website and play the interview that we did with her. She was allowed to talk on the phone. So was Tanya McCash. So was Anna Taylor. And it was very helpful because the whole world was able to hear in a call that we did just like this one, where there was multiple people from different angles and different activist groups, and we would do an interview from the psychiatric hospital with the person they had locked up, and everybody could hear. They could hear these people are just normal people, and obviously being locked up for their political beliefs or exposing government corruption. And so, anyway, her name is Solange Martinez. She was locked up. She was basically advocating for people in court and winning. She was not an attorney. She was just an activist like we are. They scooped her up at 8:30 in the morning from her apartment, a dozen armed NYPD agents from Precinct 52. Tanya was on the phone on speaker listening to the whole thing, and she heard the police say, "We find no evidence of any crime here, but the EMTs are going to take you." And the EMT said, "You can sue us later." And the cops forced her at gunpoint to get in the ambulance with the EMTs, who took her to a private hospital called North Central in Bronx. They locked her up. We got to do a phone interview within the first couple of days, and she was out in a couple of weeks. And there was all kinds of other things in that case that are just amazing. Namely, the judge who did the hearing wasn't the one who signed the papers for the incarceration. One Judge Miles, a state Supreme Court judge, was signing the papers, and then a mental health court judge was showing up at the hospital to do the hearing. It wasn't even the same guy doing the hearing that was signing the papers. So that was kind of majorly procedurally defective, so to speak, is what the attorneys would call it. And so anyway, she was forcibly medicated with 6 medications, including Halidol, Zolpidem, lithium carbonate. They claim that she was schizophrenic, just like they're going to do with Michael Large.
No, they're not. We're going to get him out by Monday.
There you go. I like that optimism. I hate to make predictions, but we've had about a 95% success rate. So what they're doing now is
they don't want him to go to the hospital.
They don't want
him to go to the hearing either.
No, and they don't want him to use the phone. Otherwise, we'd have Michael Large on tonight, but they're kind of catching on to realizing that if they want to hang on to these people and kidnap them and forcibly drug them and basically kill somebody who's telling the truth and exposing corruption, we just can't let that happen, and I do want to encourage people to get involved now. We would have Michael on tonight, but they've shut off his phone privileges for no reason. He wasn't abusing the phone privileges. He was just getting, a lot of people, support, and I think that would be good. Even the people at the hospital, I think, would not begrudge somebody being, anybody's going to want support. You've got to. They must have no soul to be able to lock somebody like Michael out and deny him his legal advocates, his friends that are calling to check up on him. And so we apologize to our listeners for not being able to have Michael on tonight, but they got him locked in his room. I just talked to the nursing station, and she said he's not allowed to leave his room. So what are they doing, locking him in there 24/7? If I did that to my dogs, the Humane Society and the New York State Police would come up to my place, and they'd take my dogs and they'd take me off to jail. Okay, if I locked my dogs in a closet, a small room or a large closet for 24 hours a day, that's ridiculous. And this man's never hurt anybody. He's not a threat to himself, and he's not a threat to others, and they know it. So
that's a good thing to put in a letter.
Yeah, exactly.
That's him, and he has never been a threat to himself or others.
That's the legal standard. That's what the lawyer.
And isn't that what the 302? Yeah, and isn't that what the 302 is supposed to be all about? I mean, when the police arrest somebody on a 302 on an involuntary hold, that's got to be the primary criterion, right?
Well, right. If somebody's, talking to invisible people or, claiming, there's just absurd things, that's one thing. And that would be, that even falls within the category of freedom of speech. If somebody is actually a danger, what you could, there might be a case occasionally where but it would be extremely rare. You either have criminals doing violence, that's your 99% of the time, and very rarely do you have somebody who's actually delusional to the point where they can hurt themselves or hurt somebody else. Rarely does it happen. And they got scooping up people on this left and right. And most of them in the square hairs of the system are patriots, truth tellers, veterans. It's a very disturbing pattern. Back to you, Romola.
Well, I think the 302 is precisely that. It's supposed to be about if you pose the danger of causing harm to yourself, via suicide, there's some kind of threat of suicide, or to others, some kind of threat of, assaulting others, or if you are showing a pattern of not showing any self-care where you can't take care of yourself. Those are the three reasons whereby the community can intervene, the so-called community. I mean, they're calling this the community. This is the state system that intervenes and says we can take you forcibly to an ER and forcibly get you a psych eval, where they usually, you see people who are targeted, people, as you say, who are truth tellers, patriots, etc., and people who are being targeted with these weapons. These are actual weapons. These are stealth weapons, but they are actual weapons. They are radar surveillance weapons that are being used on people. People who report being hit with these weapons are immediately being named paranoid and delusional. This is like a catch-22. So it's a way that the police and the Homeland Center mechanism and the fusion centers, the FBI, etc., are using to keep all public notice of the use of these weapons on Americans hidden, absolutely hidden, by simply every time somebody so much as mentions, directed energy weapons, microwave weapons, or whatever, they're called paranoid, delusional, schizophrenic, schizoid, fill them up with pills, etc.
Let me say something while I'm thinking about it. If you write a letter on behalf of this man, offer to be a witness at the hearing.
Well,
they have to allow phone witnessing.
Yeah, and here's what I want to throw in to kind of tack on to that. At that hearing, I would like to see, and I'll contribute to this in any way I can. It's just a matter of time. We're not talking about money. We're just talking about contributing effort to putting together a package, a dissertation or a thesis or a little mini pamphlet or a small book or whatever you want to call it. Not too long, because then many people won't even bother getting into it. Kind of condensed, the Cliff Notes version of government-funded weapons programs that are basically what Michael Large was talking about. And I think and a great place to start, just from my opinion, because I was there and studying this case, was the University of South Carolina getting money from Darpa to develop brain-to-computer interface programs to enhance the performance of soldiers and pilots. The Israeli Defense Forces are using it. Israeli Aircraft Industries has what's called the NeuroTOR. The NeuroTOR, N-E-R-U-R-O-T-O-R, NeuroTOR. It's the world's most advanced brain interfacing machine that will pilots literally plug their brains into computers. I mean, this stuff is real, and we have to put it in a kind of an easy-to-read, condensed form with maybe just the top 20 or 30 cases of government-funded psychological operations programs with kinetic energy weapons, voice-to-skull technology. Simple microwave radiation can affect somebody's brain. I mean, why do you think cell phones are so dangerous? So I think if we could put together, if everybody could contribute, I'll throw in, because I know about it, the USC, University of South Carolina DARPA study, which specifically pertained to psychological and brain interface projects to develop stuff for the military, and everybody chip in what they know, and let's put together a little package that we could send in like an email form, maybe just 10, to the local police chief, the head of the university, and let them know that we know about these programs, just so they know the jig is up, the cover's gone. You're not going to be claiming people are insane because they come forward like Michael Large did and say, hey, what's with these weapons? I know they're using them on American people. Could you please cease and desist? let's put together a cease and desist order to have them require them to stop using these weapons on Americans. Let's repeal that section of the Strong Defense National Authorization Act of 1961, which allows them to do this legally. And then when they know that we know the jig is up, they're not going to be able to look in the mirror at night. They're not going to be able to kiss their children and go to church and claim they're the good guys anymore. They're going to know they're the bad guys. We know they're the bad guys, and that's the way it is. When a man or woman who is mistaken hears the truth, they either cease being mistaken or they cease being honest. Now, one last thing I'd like to say before I kick it back to the ladies is I would add something to the psychiatric living will. Have that kind of tucked away in your wallet for spontaneous, use if you need it. But also have a habeas corpus. I think that's still a lawful document. It's still honored by the courts. I watch New York attorneys, they were serious, and the court was serious about the habeas corpus still. And this was a tyrannical, admiralty, militarized ecclesiastic court, worse New York nasty courts, and they were still at least honoring the airing out of the habeas corpus, the appearance, there's still some clout in a habeas. And if people want to kind of see what one looks like, you can see my version, the one I did for the Bundys. We did one for the Bundys. And it was a family that stood up against the government with their cattle ranch in Nevada and all that. So, and somewhere on our webpage, Daniel, I think it's under documents, correct me if I'm wrong, you'll see, if you click on documents, there's not a lot of them. There's just a few over on, there might be a bunch more. Daniel's been posting. Just go to courtroomwatch.com and click on documents, and you'll see the habeas corpus for the Bundys. That's how I kind of like it done, and here's what a lot of other habeas corpus writers do not do. They don't put any teeth in it. They don't put any penalty for remedy. There's a little clause at the end of the one I do that says, failure to honor this habeas corpus is trespass. Trespass requires remedy. $1 silver per second for trespass duration. That means from the time they started till the time they're done, ring up an invoice and present the invoice to the judge in court. Now, I wouldn't go to the point of putting a lien on his property because other judges will come in and claim that lies to cover for their other, their fellow judges. And so be very careful when you get to the point of filing a lien, but you could present an invoice to the court and say, you owe me this much money. And we can get into that later. I don't want to get too far off, but this is all part of what Michael Large is going through. And the way we can protect ourselves, as we've heard tonight, folks, is have a psychiatric living will. And also I would suggest a habeas corpus, which is an ancient lawful document that means produce the body, show me the body, bring the person forward. Under common law, which the habeas corpus was founded during, the common law era, when common law was founded in, the 1295, the Magna Carta was written. That's a long time ago. That's old. And so this is an ancient, this is a well-respected document. I would have one kind of on hand, put some penalty at the end that they're going to, if they continue to hold the person after, I think it's three days, they have to issue the order, and within 5, I think they have to bring the person before the court to answer. Now, and under common law, don't forget, if there's no victim, there's no crime. Who was injured by Michael Large coming forward to his representative and saying, I know the government's using, voice-to-skull technology and, psychological weapons on me? Who was injured by him saying that? He didn't hurt anybody. He didn't hurt the judge or the court or the police or the person he was coming to. Everybody was nice to him, and he walked home and had his opinion on what's going on, which we know is pretty much true. And the enemy has their opinion that, all these people are delusional. What are they talking about these crazy military programs for? Because they exist. And so anyway, it's have a habeas corpus, have a psychiatric living will, and give us the name of your website again. We want to keep repeating the name of the website throughout this. We have Romola D, that's R-A, M as in Michael, O-L-A, Romola, and then the initial D. And if you go to Romola D Reports or Introduction to Romola D, you'll see she's up there all over YouTube, and you'll get to watch her stuff, and I highly recommend that. And what was the name of the other organization, Ms. Powers? Citizens Against what?
Citizens Against Harmful Technologies. When we were naming the organization, we didn't want to limit it just to targeted individuals, but to those people who were maybe being affected by Morgellons, or people who are losing their homes to floods or fires, or being killed in their beds by fires. That sort of thing just encompass all the things that are being hit by directed energy, lasers.
Well, I tell you, and I got to tell you, I through most of my political activism, only up until recently, I've become really interested in this. But before, I was kind of like, well, these are top secret programs. How can you prove any of it? You don't really know what's going on. Where's your evidence? I need something a little more solid, because I'm kind of fact-based. I have a lot of, the passionate opinions and whatnot, but I still try to limit, what I'm going to really sink my teeth into and spend time on. I like to see a little, some evidence. And as I started looking around the corners, it's all out there. That University of South Carolina program where they're funded by DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, DARPA, they're giving money to the university to develop these brain interface and psychological affecting weapons. It was amazing. Millions of dollars, too, of course, of our money.
Yes, and if you check the federal contracts, regularly there are these long contracts, 5, 7-year, 2, 3-year projects, contracts given by the U.S. Air Force to various big defense contractors like Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin's a big one, by the way. General Dynamics, another big one. Various others, to do tests on millimeter wave weapons, microwave weapons, and there's field weapons testing as part of these contracts. So there's a lot of them going on.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, I was listening to an interview with the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer for Lockheed Martin, and this was on Federal News Radio AM 1500. And I was up in the mountains looking for obscure radio stations, and they're interviewing this CFO of Lockheed, and he said, "Oh, business is good. We're bringing in $17 billion a month of government money and funding from God knows what agencies, mostly government agencies. I'm sure they get hired by other private corporations to make stuff as well, and foreign governments. But $17 billion a month. That's 17,000 suitcases with $1 million in each one. I would cover like a Walmart parking lot with duffel bags full of $1 million each. Think about that money. $17 billion every 4 weeks. What do you think they're doing?
I think that's exactly right.
Yeah.
I've wondered what the government shutdown will do to these grants.
Well, hopefully,
nothing.
I'll tell you this. I've been perfectly comfortable and happy for the last couple of weeks since the government was shut down. There's going to be a lot less government thieves with badges running around basically stealing and restricting our private property. I think it's going along great. I think they should shut down more parts of it. I think the entire thing should be
chemtrails, the lasers.
There should be a Justice Department that's strictly limited to prosecutions against people who persecuted patriots. I think there should be an entire division of all of our agencies that are going to want to stay in business. Otherwise, shut it down, put a padlock on the door, clear out the building, put a couple of military police out front, out of business, done. Make them go actually open a hot dog stand or go on YouTube and try to forge a living digging ditches or being a medical assistant or doing actually something, producing something for the economy rather than leeching out of it, which is what government agents do. Government produces nothing. They're leeches. They're thieves. That's all they can do is legalize stealing. And so I think shutting the entire thing down would be great. The local guys are still going to fill the potholes, and plow the streets. They charge plenty of taxes around here in New York where they can pay for their services, don't need the federal government at all. I can't think of much you need it for except to protect us against corrupt, rogue, out-of-control state and local municipality governments that need to be, basically many local people at the local and state level need to be arrested by the federal government. If it was any good, that's what it would be doing, but it's completely the opposite. Well, like we just had a local government here in the town of I believe it's Alma, where the town supervisor just resigned. Half the town government was fighting with the other half of the town. The mayor was demanding that the head of the highway department hire his nephew. The head of the highway department says, your nephew's a drunk and a nut, and he's not going to be working for my department. He's not up to it. So they started fighting and infighting, and favors weren't being done, and money was getting taken, and hours were being charged that weren't being worked. And basically the honest part of the government is winning, and the rest is crashing and burning, and they're even under investigation by the state apparently right now. So we're going to have a major situation, which I'm going to bring forward at another time. Tonight's kind of devoted to Micheal Large and the issues surrounding and involved with all the tentacles involved in his case, and it runs deep. This runs into military psychological brain operations and weapons. This runs into testing on American people without their consent. Chris, I want you to repeat the name of the federal statute that legalizes and puts it in the minds of the people who are holding Micheal Large, that it's okay to do what they're doing. Now, what was the name of that authorization act again, Chris? Repeat that slowly.
It's 10 United States Code 2358. The Strom-Thurmond National Defense Authorization Act of 1961. Strom-Thurmond was the former Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan and a respected senior senator, I should say, or maybe been in Congress. I don't remember what his office was precisely. I apologize. This document also has an evil, wicked. In fact, let me expand on this document. This particular Strom-Thurmond National Defense Authorization Act, which spun off, it spawn of Satan in the NDAA of 2001, I think it was, or 2000, whenever they had the World Trade Center, and then later iterations by Obama, the imposter POTUS, is a very insidious piece of work that was concocted by Prescott Bush, who was indicted as a co-conspirator of Union Bank of New York for funding the Nazi war campaign with FDR and Churchill and some of the other Stalinist supporters of Hitler's movement. It has an evil, wicked twin sister that's State Department Bulletin Pamphlet Number 7277. Freedom from war in a so-called peaceful society. The so-called was my words. This is the UN Agenda 21, Small Arms Disarmament Treaty, try to disarm Americans so we can be readily murdered. In fact, eugenics is a fancy, soft-spoken term to cover up mass murder explicitly, and this is what those eugenicists, Margaret Sanger being one of the principals, the Tavistock Institute. So later on, and maybe on another show, because we're probably running out of time on this one, I will share with you many things that are going on here in Las Vegas. I've had some great unveilings of some serious incriminating information. For instance, that 302 that you're using up there for the psych report to qualify putting them in under psych eval, so-called, is the same report form that all FBI agents are required to file. It used to be like a field interview report that police officers did, but it's under the FBI. It's there. In fact, I also have acquired quite a lot of knowledge in how to remove one's name from the so-called terrorist watch list, which I am on for what I know, not because of what I've done to anyone. I'm listed as hot. Hot, I think, is a euphemism for 187 kill list. Hot 10 TW8. The 10 is I'm best able to discern. It means I'm supposedly armed and dangerous and want to kill police and judges. The TW stands for Terror Watch. That's under the DHS's Terror Watch list by the Terror Threat Security Center's assessment. These fusion center assessments, and the 8 supposedly means I'm pretextually, without any fact-specific basis to support it, suicidal. The fact that I impersonated Lavoy Finicum when they tried to murder me in 10 November 2016 in front of my house when they stole a very valuable collectible automobile from me at multiple gunpoints, about 15 to 20. whenever I held up my arms with palms out so they could see there's nothing in them horizontally, not up, but out. I think it's a Masonic sign, as best I'm able to discern, like Lavoy Finicum did, and told them that if they were there to kill me, to go and murder me like they did Lavoy Finicum, go ahead and shoot. And I was amazed they didn't, so they colored me suicidal. Not that I want to be murdered or die. I'm not afeared of death anymore since they've tried to murder me twice. I'm quite experienced, and it doesn't scare me at all. And I have a great video that I think if I knew how to get it onto the internet or to Eric and his group, I think it would all be entertaining to all of you at the very least, perhaps educational.
Absolutely, and let's not forget Chris here, who is speaking brilliantly right now, and as he always does, was locked up at what was it called?
Lake Crossing Center.
Lake Crossing, yeah, a psychiatric holding facility. They flew him on a jet. Listen, folks, to tell you how much they love Chris, they scooped him up, they put him on a jet plane and flew him 8 hours on a jet plane away from Las Vegas where his home is so they could get him away from his people. But it didn't work very well because he was still getting calls from all over the place, and he eventually got out, I think, after 8 weeks. So Chris is another Chris has direct experience in what Michael's going through, and we really appreciate Chris being here tonight. What excellent knowledge.
I am testimony, first-party competent experience from having Freedom Screamer and other callers call my facility so I could talk to them. And Eric and his group and Lori and others did wonderful investigatory stuff, revealing all the financial interests of the bar attorneys and judges in both the centers here in Las Vegas and up there, these psychiatric care centers. They all have financial vested, serious interests, substantial financial, in all these facilities, so they have a stake in the game. And whenever they send somebody up there, they're making money off everybody they send, so they're extremely biased, conflicted, and not competent to send anybody there. And this is a... Go ahead.
Not right. You just hit it. That judge, in your case, we looked into her, Nancy Becker. And this was one of the first ones, but I noticed a pattern of it happening all around the country. They're bringing judges out of retirement. This judge is retired. That judge is retired. So-and-so. It's always a retired judge. If they're retired, what are they doing? Locking people up? I thought they were retired. Go retire them permanently, please.
Aren't judges elected?
Here's why, Eric. It's because a temporary retired judge is off roles, doesn't work for the county. They work as an NGO private contractor coming back to get more money, and that way they're not culpable and liable and attachable to the city or the county or whatever entity they're working for, so they have a pretextual air of immunity, although if you can prove pattern, practice, and custom, then they are certainly indictable privately and collectively under their conspiracy to perpetrate all kinds of terrorism on seniors and other culpable, vulnerable people.
Absolutely, that's what they did, and this is why the only purpose there should be one agency of the federal government, other than some floor cleaners at some of the buildings in Washington. It should be one agency, and that's the Justice Department, doing exactly what you just suggested, which is let's prosecute all these corrupt judges that are operating as private individuals. Let me throw in one little addition to that. We had 2 judges here in New York just recently in the Wayne Mosier case. We beat them like 3 times. We went in, the first judge, James Ames, of the town of Andover, New York, failed to file his open bond. And under New York state law, every public officer, whether it's a sheriff, a local police trooper, judge, they all have to file what's called an oath and a bond with the county clerk. So that's within 30 days of the time that they're elected. And this is all in the law. I looked it up. I read this thing backwards and forwards. As Section 30.1.H actually says, creation of vacancy. Where it says if the judge fails to, or a cop or whoever the public servant is, fails to file their oath, which is I swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States, which they proceed to go out and violate the very next day, and then a bond, which is basically an insurance policy against their corruption. Nobody wants to pay for that because no insurance company is going to be, they're not stupid. They know the cops and the judges are all corrupt. They're all twisted. they're all going to get them sued, so they won't even provide the insurance, not for an affordable rate. So nobody gets it, and they just figure people won't notice, and people don't. And all we do every time we have a local judge is we go right to the county clerk. Hey, can I have a copy of the oath and bond for James Ames? And it was expired for a year and a half. That means for 18 months he was operating as a private individual. His position was vacant. He wasn't no judge. He was like you or me, telling the local cops, hey, I'll give you some money if you go round people up and bring them up to my house. I'll make them pay. You make them pay. Tell them if they don't, you're going to come to their house with your gun. And they got a literal mafia scam going on. He wasn't a lawful judge. He violated the public health. It was amazing. And then guess what? So the town wouldn't drop it. So they take it back to court, where the county judge said, we said, we want you to drop this. He said, I can't do that. He said, I can only do a change of venue, because they wanted to move it to a different town, as if that new town had any jurisdiction over this guy's property in the previous town. And so guess what? The court says, the county court pigeonholes themselves into a corner by saying, we can only do a change of venue. We can't dismiss this case for you. But our only jurisdiction here is change of venue. And he said that. That means he couldn't rehear the case if they kicked it back to county. So they move it to another town. And that judge, Sandra Cameron, had no oath and bond. And she was horrified when we showed up in court and said, here's your expired oath and bond. You're operating as a private individual. You're no judge. And she looked at me. Oh, my. She goes, how did you get a copy of my oath and bond? We said we went right down to the county clerk. It's public information, you nitwit. And so she had to recuse herself, and by that time they were worn out, and they had to dismiss the whole case against this guy for having too much stuff in his yard way out in the country where nobody can see his house. So anyway, there's a way to beat him on this, and a lot of times it's their own statutes and codes. But back to what I was saying, there's a pattern of retired judges coming out of retirement and locking up people like Michael Large. Or you'll get one judge hearing the hearing and another judge signing the papers, like the Solange Martinez case. Or you'll get judges that have no open bond. You'll get judges that are, it's like they can't find anybody honest. So I'm interested to see who's going to hear the case for Michael Large. And we're going to stay on top of that. And later in this broadcast coming up, we're going to give out some numbers that people can call, contact information. We want people to and Chris, I'll get to you in a second. I know you want to say something. But I want people to know who the enemy is in this case. The enemy is the Upper Moreland, Pennsylvania. These are local police, a town called Upper Moreland, Moreland. They're the ones who kidnapped this guy. They kicked in his window. They came in and handcuffed him and took him off on a 302 psychiatric hold because he was bringing evidence forward of government psychological weapons programs. Let him do that.
Is that the name of the police department?
Yeah, it's called Upper Moreland Police Department. The chief is named Murphy. And if you call the main desk, they'll give you his voicemail. I suggest you fill his voicemail box this weekend, people. This guy cannot get away with doing what he's doing. To an Air Force veteran who served for 4 years and was honorably discharged, if he was lunatic or had some mental problem, I think they would have picked it up in the military somewhere along the line and probably discharged him before his tour was up, and probably not honorably. I mean, this guy's an honorably discharged veteran. What's the problem? So he's got a clear pattern and I've interviewed him, and Romola D, who's on with us, has interviewed him, and Heidi's talked with him personally. Heidi's with us patiently. Just interrupt, Heidi, if you have something to say. And Miss Powers, who's with us tonight from Citizens Against Harmful Technologies, she spoke to Michael. We've had so many people talk to this guy, and not one of them thinks he's crazy or nuts or has any problems whatsoever. So, and I really wish he could be with us tonight, but people, they're playing hardball. So it's all hands on. Yeah, I mean, they won't let him use the phone. They got him locked in his room 24/7. So, Romola, make your comment, and then we're going to hear from Chris again.
Oh, I think that was Kizit who wanted to make a comment just now.
I just wanted to know if we could get a copy of the papers that got him into the hospital, because I just read this commitment requirement on the Internet for the 302. It says in every 302, a petitioner is required to sign the 302 and appear at a hearing if necessary. So a hearing may not be necessary if we can get him out before then. So that's why I'm asking people to write a letter and fax it tomorrow. A petitioner must have first-hand knowledge of the dangerous conduct and be willing to go to the emergency room. So the petitioner will have signed these papers too, and I'd really like to see who did that.
Let me give you your answer. Well, first of all, we win either way because we either get him out Monday or the hearing happens and that petitioner has to come forward with those. They're going to have to produce that document. Now, the answer is yes to your question. You have to file a Freedom of Information Act or a Freedom of Information Law. It'll either be a FOIA or a FOIL, F-O-I-A or F-O-I-L. F-O-I-L is the Freedom of Information Law. That's the actual statute. And then there's a I think that one's state, and the Freedom of Information Act, I think, is federal, or vice versa. Someone's going to have to. I haven't done one in a while. I can't remember the.
Federal for sure.
Huh?
The FOIA is absolutely federal for sure. Larry Klayman and Judicial Watch, and he's got a new place he's called Tom Fitton. They're the experts at FOIA requests.
Are they? Let's give that again slowly. Judicial Watch, which is all over the internet. You'll find it. Just type in Judicial Watch, probably.com. Fenton is Larry Klayman founded it. And now it's Bob Fenton. What's his name?
Tom Fitton and Chris Farrell, F-I-T-T-O-N, Tom Fitton and Chris Farrell, F-A-R-R-E-L, maybe two L's, Judicial Watch, and then Larry Klayman's got a new firm. He's got his own label on. But these are the ones, the kings of the FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act. That's the federal law, which requires agencies to provide open, free, Sunshine Act compliant, Public Duty Act compliant disclosure for people who inquire. And these are things I've been working on quite, in fact, this is why they are stonewalling and obstructing justice here, is because my discovery requests are things they don't want to comply with because they're so incriminating. Like the 911 tape from the 2.25 hours that I had them on the phone the day they tried to murder me on 8th of November, 2018. I haven't told you about this one, Larry, but I won't tell it on tonight, but we'll save it for another one. But they never want to reveal their criminality, and this is the same thing we see going on with the FBI and the Department of Justice. When you have the criminals controlling the flow of information, they are never going to release information that convict themselves.
Right,
New liars, they spoilate evidence, they redact it, they obliterate it any way they can, they bleach bit it. Everything they can do to keep from incriminating themselves, they do, including breaking law and acting as criminals and becoming outlaws themselves.
Yeah, well,
does anybody know if he has any relatives?
I don't know. Do you know?
Yeah, he has a sister, so I've been given her number in case we can't reach him once if they succeed in transferring him to the state hospital called Norristown State Hospital, which, by the way, used to be called the lunatic something or other.
Yeah,
I plan to do that.
Heidi, I'm glad you chimed in. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Heidi in Minnesota. Heidi, can you repeat kind of what you said to me, just a synopsis of what your conversations with Micheal today, so people can get a little bit of a firsthand and the feeling you got, and just kind of how the day went communicating with Micheal at the psychiatric hospital in Abingdon, A-B-I-N-G-D-O-N. That's in Pennsylvania.
Go ahead.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I spoke to him briefly. Basically, he has no phone, what they call privileges. I think it's kind of strange to call it privileges, but especially since he's on a medical floor. So the nurse said, let's see. Yeah, she said, so I was given his room number and that a room phone, and it didn't, there was no answer. And so I kept calling and there was no answer. And finally I asked for the nurse's station, and she said that because of the emails and calls from, I think maybe before he got admitted, that I guess he was still doing that, emailing people, so they took away his privileges. So he has no phone in his room either. So you have to go through the nurse's station. He has 5 to 10 minutes. And he said that, so I guess he's been in there since Sunday, and he's got
they claim that they're treating him for high blood pressure, and that once they get his blood pressure down, they're going to transfer him to the state hospital. But I asked him if he had any blood pressure problems, and he said not that he knew of, but he didn't really know. But I looked up the medication, and this medication, which is an alpha agonist hypotensive agent, basically lowers the blood pressure by lowering, I believe, the heart rate and dilating the blood vessels. It's supposed to work within hours. So I really don't understand how, it takes 6 days to lower his blood pressure.
I had the same reaction. I told him to be careful of what they're giving him, because they might say that they're giving him the luminol, but they might be giving him something else. And if I had high blood pressure, the doctor gives me a prescription and I go home.
Right.
Yeah, so it doesn't make any sense. Huh?
They're using, it doesn't. It doesn't make any sense that to a logical person, it's obvious that they're using whatever excuse they can to hold on to this guy and delay any type of release or any type of hearing or any type of due process. I want everybody listening to this broadcast to know that this is a pattern of behavior that's going to come. This is a test case. They're dipping their toe in the water. This is as far as the hospital and the police, the courts, are seeing what they can get away with. Can they hold the guy for 120 days legally? Okay, and now can we hold him longer than that? We got to let him out after the law says only 120 hours. That's what it is, which is several days, and then they have to let him out. Can we hold him longer than that? Can we leave him, lock him in his room 24/7? Can we take away all his phone privileges, even though he's, all kinds of, he has the right to use the phone if he hasn't been convicted of anything yet, and unless he's clubbing people over the head with the actual phone itself, he should be allowed to use the phone. Who cares what kind of emails he's sending? They're so scared of his emails that they're going to do this to this man. And so anyway, I want just people to know how serious this is. This is a test case. They're trying to see what they can get away with. They're doing it to the Micheal Large because Micheal is soft-spoken. He's a gentle guy. He's not a super, he's not like in-your-face activist. This is the last guy in the world who would ever hurt anybody. I can't see this guy, swatting a fly. He'd probably shoo him away and let him go off to the home. This guy's a really sweet guy. I've talked to him. He's got no problems. He's not a danger to himself or others. And then once again, that's the legal standard. Even the courts and the attorneys have to abide by that. Is he an immediate danger to himself or others? Now, what they've done recently, and I hear this word all over the place now, every government agency, every police department, every court is using the word risk. He's at risk for this. They're at risk for that. Risk. Now, think about it, people. Saying somebody is at risk for something is trying to predict something that hasn't happened and may not happen, and it's also pre-crime. This is pre-crime initiative. They're trying to predict. They're trying to say, well, this person's at risk that he might do something possibly someday in the future, perhaps. And that's what they're using as evidence to lock people up now. This word risk has to be taken out, taken down, removed from the legal standard, removed from the legal code, removed from the brains of the brainwashed police, and this whole thing risk. Well, risk is too bad. Part of living in a free society is there's going to be risk. That's part of freedom. That's the deal.
Eric,
if you want to go. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Well, this is exactly what I was explaining earlier about the so-called DSM-5 and, in fact, the legal trade in general. They speak in broad, general, vague, ambiguous terms that can mean anything, yet they apply with specificity certain meanings that we're not privy to. It's their private legal talk, or dog Latin, as some call it. This falls under what's termed the doctrine of void for vague, because constitutional requirements for specificity of meanings of word terms to the least sophisticated de minimis standard is the least acceptable definition, so that they can have some concept of what it is they're accused of doing. This is fundamental American due process of law. Notice an opportunity to be advised of what you're accused of in order to have substantial justice. And this is exactly what they're doing with these words. When they use the word risk, it has no specific definition. It means anything in the world they want it to mean. And if they say it means to the exclusivity of all other words that exist. In this particular instance they're talking about, so they can say black means white, or they can say love means war, or love means hate, or any other kind of preposterous definition they want to contrive and conjure up or gin up to confuse you and discombobulate and put you into the psychobabble speak that they operated in these war courts. This is absolutely very, very dangerous. I was going to suggest that I'm working on a document right now that I will provide to Eric, and I am calling it a judicial notice to condition precedent. Now, I have to give Eileen Whitney over at the Republic Broadcasting Network some accolades and appreciation, accommodation for her giving me the idea originally, but I've adopted it to even other uses. And you can incorporate it also in affidavits, and you can actually use them as defensive mechanisms and to put evidence into courts and on your own behalf. And this notice of condition precedent, I'm going to serve where they're wanting me to go to register to supposedly be assessed, and I'm going to invoke this condition precedent as a pre-qualifier and refuse to consent to being assessed, chemical lobotomized, or murdered by injection, because I've had experience with this before, having been, for no reason whatsoever, being asleep on a cot, face down, fell asleep reading, burst in by 6 big gang thugs that they call so-called corrections officers or caregivers, and forcibly injected with a bioterrorism weapon against my will because I refused to consent to insane number of so-called tuberculosis test injections, and they obviously have a financial vested interest in having 100% compliance, and this could be the only possible plausible explanation for the violent attack they did. Now, while I was only detained, I was not incarcerated, not lawfully anyway. I was not in prison. I had not been convicted of a crime, and so that I maintained all my natural God-given rights, including what they call just civilis or civil rights, which are really privileges posed as rights. And this is the danger that we all fall privy to and prey to, is because we don't know that our rights come from God, not from the Constitution or any written documents that evil, wicked, perverse man writes. Thank you.
Yeah, and I was told by somebody who's pretty well in the know that all hospitals are military right now. All of them. You're not going to see a person in an Army uniform at the front desk. They're going to be wearing civilian clothes, but all of them at the highest levels all report to the military. It's all about experimentation. Everything you see. That's why I said just a few minutes ago, this is a test case. This is an experiment. Not only are they experimenting.
Yeah, you know, actually. Oh, sure.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, not only are they they're experimenting to see how much they can get away with. Go ahead, Heidi.
Oh, I was just going to say that that this hospital system, Jefferson Health, which is kind of it's kind of a combination of, there are all these different hospitals and universities working together. I don't know the right word, but they received in fiscal year 2017 $122 million in private and public research money.
Oh, that's all?
So they're a really huge, research institution. And in addition, Jefferson University that they're based out of in North America was #1 for neurosurgery resident publications. Plus they're anyway, they're really big on the research thing there. So and I don't know if anybody. I don't know if everyone's aware of. Sorry.
Can you do us a huge favor and send that information that you just said to Courtroom Watch at gmail.com? That would be wonderful. I'll put that on this presentation.
Yeah, I have a couple other little things I don't know if anyone wants to hear, but there are some little things about experimentation and about being non-persons. I don't know if, but basically, there are several things here. One is that there's Operation Vigilant Eagle, and as a veteran, I've heard from one veteran that all 9/11 veterans, so in other words, Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Iraqi Freedom, Afghani Freedom, that they're all targeted, that they're all viewed as enemy combatants when they get back. But she kind of qualified it by saying, well, if they keep their mouth shut about 9/11 sort of thing, that they might be left alone. So maybe it's not quite all of them, but there's something in that Operation Vigilant Eagle language that allows them to be targeted. And so in addition, so with the experimentation, their how do I explain this? Okay, personhood. So there's a thing called obviously informed consent, and what they do sometimes is if somebody is put on one of these watch lists, it's a suspected terrorist. A court case in 2009 that was refused to be heard by the Supreme Court called Rahul versus Rumsfeld. And therefore they upheld the higher court's ruling that that if you're a suspected terrorist, you can expect to be tortured. So it also covered religious rights. So the suspected terrorists, there were 4 of them from Gitmo, and they had no religious rights recognized. So basically, that makes you into a non-person. So once a person is loses their legal someone loses their legal personhood, that can possibly, I think, lead to a waiver of informed consent, or is what they're using it as. So there's a video online. I forgot the name of it, but we were talking about it on Twitter. And in this video, it was a brain researcher, and he made reference to people that didn't have personhood in their experiments. And it was kind of like, it was almost like it was just like a little incidental fact to him, like it wasn't any big deal. So, you know, this is kind of serious here. So it's kind of like, it seems like people who feel that people who are targeted, possibly having been put on a watch list, that they're considered non-persons, and so they can, you know, they can be experimented on. Anything can be done to them. But I would like to add that last year, the special committee on, the United Nations, I forgot the name of it, but the special rapporteur on torture condemned coercive psychiatry. So including, you know, all sorts of things. But anyway, so these you know, this has happened before. It happened in 2013. So it's just sort of a declaration, I think. I don't think it's anything binding, but it still, to me, is significant that it's being recognized by the United Nations that it's not okay to force psychiatric treatment on people. So I think that was the main thing that I wanted to say. And then the last little thing, I guess, which might tie into the veteran issue, is the fact that there are large lobbying groups that are, and other groups that are activist groups that are trying to make gun control into a public health issue. So in my opinion, what that means is that there's going to be an incentive for people to be declared mentally ill, and that might go hand in hand with targeting. So, you know, in my opinion, like this thing with the veterans, targeting the veterans and trying to take away their weapons, I feel like it might be sort of connected. And so if you call it a public health issue, you get them in there, you declare them mentally ill, and then you get, you know, money as well from experimentation. And they take your gun. That's about it.
And they take your gun.
Can I just interject here quick? Caller, can you identify who you are, just so when people watch this video, if they're interested in finding out more information?
Yeah, what's your Twitter?
Oh, yeah, I go by, I'm on Twitter as Crystal Shen, Crystal,
Yeah, Crystal, Crystal, and then is it Shen?
Yeah, S like Sam, Hen like Nancy, Shen. There's a cherry blossom on my picture on my account. But that's my account for veterans, so I cover veterans issues, things that are of importance to veterans and that are threatening their freedom. You're welcome. So I have lots of information on there.
Well, just want to thank you for, you know, giving information tonight on this program. This is very important information that people need to know about. And I just want to have people know who to contact if they need to find out more information about this subject.
Well, let's do that.
Yeah, they can go there.
Yeah, let me do this. Daniel just led right into what I was going to get to next, and here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give out some numbers and names that people can call if they want to help Michael Large, honorably just discharged U.S. Air Force veteran, older gentleman who served in the military from 70 to 74. He studied government policy, government weapons programs. He brought truth and facts to his representative, and very shortly after that, the police came in with a psychiatric order to hold him on a psychiatric hold, which is called a 302, which is basically a document that anybody in the police department or the court can write up, and if they don't like you, they say, here's a 302. There's no indictment. There's no grand jury. There's no charge, no criminal charge. There's no accusation. There's no victim. And they just come up with 302. Go get him. And it's off to a room where this man's locked up 24/7. So I'm going to here's what we'll do. I'm going to give some numbers and names out. Then I'm going to let Miss Powers and Miss Ramona give their contact info. Heidi can give out her contact info. She goes by Crystal Chen, SAGN. And you can get her, through Facebook and Twitter. She wants to give out some more information before we go. That's great. Dave Pruitt, if you're still kicking around, just chime in at any time, buddy, if you have something to add. But I'm going to start out with the entity and the agent that is holding Michael Large. Hold on a sec. Now, first of all, everybody who's on the call needs to put themselves on mute unless they're going to speak. And so if you're not talking, put yourself on mute. Then when I shut up and turn it over to somebody else, I'll mute myself, and you won't hear my dogs barking and stuff in the background. But we got some background noise. I don't want it to interfere with the valuable and extremely important information that we're sharing tonight. So everybody go on mute. Chris, everybody, all you people got to mute yourself, because we got some heinous background noise going right now. It could be the enemy monkeying with our call. But if everybody puts themselves on mute, that'll eliminate any background noise that we have. So I want to thank you for indulging me on that. So here's the name of the gentleman, I use that term kindly, who owns the facility, the hospital facility that's connected to a university. This is where Michael Large, our friend, a patriot, who's being held tonight in a room without any ability to leave the room or use the telephone. They're being really rude in this one, and it's pissing me off. Forget my language. Sorry to all the single parents, but it's really getting to me. They're being rude. They're playing hardball. They're denying him any phone access, and they told me tonight that he can. I was really nice. I said, hey, I'm trying to get a hold of my friend Michael Large. I'm his legal advocate, and I've had trouble. His phone's just ringing in his room. I just want to make sure he's okay. Would you mind getting him just so I can speak to him for a couple of moments? I mean, I was nice as you could be. And she said, no, it's not possible. He's not allowed to leave his room now. He's been sending more emails out and stuff. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, this would be a joke if it wasn't so serious what was going on to this man. So I didn't say that, but I was really nice. I said, well, can you explain to me why you won't provide him the release form? Well, we didn't provide it. We don't know who you are. We can't talk to you. I said, right, that's because you didn't give him his HIPAA release form as he requested. Would you please give it to him so we can put Eric's name on it, and then you guys are released from liability, and you can discuss this case with me? Because Michael Large has privacy protections under the Health Privacy Act. So what they're doing at the hospital is hiding behind that, saying, well, Mr. Large, the person you're concerned about, has privacy rights, and we can't discuss this case with you. And what they're supposed to do is give him a HIPAA release form, and then he can put on Eric's name and Ramola and all the Daniel or whoever he wants to be able to talk about his case with his caseworker or his psychiatrist. And so they're not giving him that form. And so that he can't put me on there. And now they're saying, well, we can't talk to you because he hasn't signed the release form. Well, you haven't given him the release form, lady. Please, would you do so? I'm sorry, it's not possible. They won't let him leave the room. They won't let him use the phone. So the man's name who owns the facility, this is the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer, and his name is Lawrence Merlis. M as in Michael, E as in Edward, R-L-I-S. Merlis. And his number, this will get you to his office, and he's got an assistant, a really nice woman named Teresa, who I spoke with today, and she was cool. She was not one of the rude ones at the hospital. She was actually nice. So I want everybody, if you're going to call this woman, to be polite, be professional, be nice and mannerly about it. We don't want anybody swearing or threatening. That's not what we're about. Anybody who does that is not with us. So, but we need a lot of people to call and say, hey, I have serious concerns about this case. I'm doing my own little investigation just for personal reasons or for a media website. People, look into this on your own. Discover some things that maybe we've not been able to uncover. See if you can get through to somebody we haven't talked to. See if you can get right through to Mr. Merlis. He's the big cheese that owns the whole hospital complex and the University Research Center and all this stuff is under him. He's basically, this falls on Mr. Merlis because he's running the facility. It's up to him or whoever he answers to, whether it's shareholders, stockholders, somebody in the senior executive services higher than he is. We don't know but he's the guy on the front page of this institution, and he's going to have to take the heat, and he's going to have to be a man and realize that he's going to get some phone calls now. So we need everybody to chip in and make a call. If you're not sure, who you're calling about, it's Micheal Large, Michagal, Large, Large. He's a really nice guy. He served in the Air Force from 70 to 74. He's an old-timer, really mellow, soft-spoken, sweet guy. I could tell you, I talked to him a bunch of times recently over the past few days, and he's really scared. He doesn't know why he's in there for simply telling the truth. He wasn't threatening anybody. He wasn't hurting anybody, and he's no danger to anyone. So, but go into it as you're an investigator, and you're looking into this. You want to know more. Look into it yourself, people. If you're satisfied that this guy is a decent, somebody that you'd like to come and support, make a phone call, send some emails and some faxes, and do it persistently until they let him go. Because if we don't all speak with one voice, this is going to happen to all of us eventually. And it could come for any one of us at any time right now, especially the people who are, have independent political beliefs and who have, a passion for freedom. That's really what it comes down to. And that's exactly what they're violating. So it's Micheal Large. He's at Abingdon Hospital, Abingdon. It's called Abingdon Jefferson. And I believe Jefferson's the university and Abingdon's the hospital, and they're all bundled together under one rubric. And at the top of that pyramid is Mr. Lawrence Merlis. And so his number is, hold on one second. Going to have to do something here that might. Hang on one sec, folks. If I lose you, Daniel, I'm going to call right back in. But to pull up this number, I've got to push one of the buttons here that I don't really want to push. Hold on. Hang on one second. So Mr. Lawrence Merlis' number, I believe I'm still on with y'all. And then I'm going to kick it back to the ladies. Yeah, hang on one second. I've got to pull this up by doing recent calls because I might have just lost this. Hang on one second. So it's Lawrence Merlis, and I believe the number is...
I've got his number as well.
Oh, do you, Heidi? Do you have Lawrence Merlis' number? Yeah,
it's,
go ahead.
It's 215.
Right.
50... Oh, goodness, it's the handwriting issue. Hold on. 503-3372. Right, that's what it is.
You have the sister's number, too?
Yeah, but I don't know that I can give that out on the air.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do this. Since if we're talking about Mike Large, his sister, the patient, let's do that number exchange off the air here because we're going to publicize this. But,
no problem.
Yeah, here it is. Here, Merlis at Jefferson Hospital is 215-503-3372. That looks like what you sent me before. Now, I think I might have one second here.
Excuse me, Merlis is the CEO of Abington, which is, it might be sort of considered one and the same, but I think, well, I'm not sure. But Jefferson Health is the other half of that.
It's It's Abingdon/Jefferson. So, but Abingdon is Abington. And it's the number that Heidi sent me before was. This got me close, but I got even closer. So I'm going to pull that up in a minute. But let's start with 215-503-3372. That's 215-503-3372. 6772. I'll repeat that a little later again. I want people to call that number and be polite. Ask for Teresa. Teresa is the assistant for Mr. Merlis, and she's going to be the one to get the message. That's about as close as you're going to get. So I'd like people to, please as many people to call Lawrence Merlis. I'm going to kick it over to Ramona and her friend Miss Powers while I look up the number that I can get people a little bit closer to Mr. Merlis's office. And we need all our people to call there and be nice but be firm. Michael Large has to be set free. Because people, this could happen to any one of us. So, Ramona, take over for a minute or two while I look up Mr. Merlis's office number.
Oh, sure, Eric. Maybe Skizit could share the number for, how to reach Michael himself, right? Is that something that we can give over the air? We can, right? That's just basically a hospital number. Skizit,
correct.
Are you still there?
Yep. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, you can give out any numbers you want except for Mike Large's sister. I think everything else is fair game.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, no private numbers, but we just want to give a hospital number.
Is there anybody who's go to the hospital for and
hold on a second. I just found it.
There?
Let me interrupt real quick here. I just found this is how you get through closer to Mr. Lawrence Merlis, the CEO of the facility. I just got it up here. Okay, so it's her name is Teresa, Teresa. She's a really nice lady, so be cool when you call her. Don't make me look bad. I don't want her to think our people are a bunch of, lunatics. So be nice when you call, but be concerned and be firm that Michael Large has to go free and ask as many questions as you can. If you just want to call him and say, I wish this man would be let go, and so he can do what he needs to do from the privacy, from his home. If he needs to go to court, he'll go to court. If he's not going to skip the court, he's not going to run. He's going to go home and make his appearance if he needs to. He does not need to be locked up in a psychiatric hospital because he's a patriotic veteran who's bringing evidence of government corruption to people in the government. So, and I'm going to have a talk with him about that, not trusting as many people in the government as he did. But, people in the military are kind of trained to go up the chain of command, and somebody at the top will fix it. And usually they don't. They usually lock you up or get rid of you and somehow make your life miserable if you're a truth teller. So here's Teresa's number. She's the contact for Lawrence Merlis. He's the big cheese over at the hospital that's holding Michael Large. So 215-955-6618. That's 215-955-6618. I'll say it again. 215-955-6618. And that's to get to right through to Lawrence Merlis's office, and you'll get his assistant, Miss Teresa. So, but be nice and be polite and be professional. But we need people to call. If we can even get 50 or 60 or 100 people to call, that would be huge. And we ought to be able to do that. If we can't get a couple of thousand, I'd be surprised. I know we can put the heat on because almost everybody that we've gone to bat for has gotten out within either a couple of days or a couple of weeks. Chris Dave in Las Vegas, who's the brilliant scholar that's on the line with us tonight, he was locked up for 2 months. His was the toughest nut to crack. He had to stay in the longest, but he still got released after 8 weeks. Finally, praise be the Lord. So, but the others,
30 days.
Others we got in a few days. And others people we get out a little quicker, and I think because we have so many people who care. Caring is what we have to do. We have to care about people we don't even know. If we don't hang together, we're going to hang separately. So this is why we need to speak with one voice. Everybody needs to call Lawrence Merlis, and if you get one of his assistants, be nice, but require him to call you back. Tell him you want to call from him. Merlis. You better do the background noise. Hello, Chris, is that you? Hey, Chris, you might have to mute your phone, buddy. Okay, we've got massive interference. Do you guys hear that interference, or is it just me?
That was probably me. Sorry about that. I didn't realize off mute.
No problem. Yeah, put yourself on mute. So, thank you. So anyway, and now I'm going to give the number for Mr. Murphy. This is the chief of police of the department that kidnapped Michael Large from his house by kicking in his window, putting handcuffs on him, and taking him to a psychiatric ward on what's called a 302. No criminal act, no accusation that Michael Large committed a crime. He didn't hurt anybody. Nobody called and complained about his behavior, except maybe I could only speculate, but somebody, as far as we know, it had to be somebody in the system who brought this forward. I'm suspecting it was an FBI agent, it was a member of the police department, it was an agent of the court or the hospital. I find it difficult to believe that just on a neighbor calling, they're going to come up with a 302, although maybe they use that as an excuse. I don't know. But I really would like to see, I'm with Ms. Powers, who's on with us tonight from Citizens Against Harmful Technologies. I really would like to know who signed the 302 form that acted like a warrant and enabled the police to take a man out of his house in the middle of the broad daylight in handcuffs when he's committed no crime, served 4 years honorably discharged from the U.S. Air Force, and now he's sitting in a psychiatric hospital? We cannot let this happen. So, Mr. Murphy, the chief of police of the Upper Moreland Police Department, his name is Murphy. I forget his first name, but he's got voicemail, and if you call the front desk, they'll get his email. I don't have that on hand. Maybe Daniel or Heidi or somebody on the computer right now or Ramola could pull up the chief of police, Murphy, for the Upper Moreland Police Department in Pennsylvania. I guarantee that, Daniel, you're good at this. He's going to have a Facebook page. He's going to be on the police department, honorary website. He's going to be somewhere there. Just go to that police department's website. His contact information will be there. I forget his first name. His last name's Murphy, and he needs
Michael. His first name's Michael Murphy.
Murphy, and he needs to have very firm. We need to read him the Riot Act. He has no authority and jurisdiction to go arrest an honorable military veteran of the Air Force because he doesn't like what the guy is saying. They're claiming he was delusional. Apparently that's what the police were saying when they took him away is, you're delusional, you're delusional. You're talking about all these government weapons that they're giving money to, Darpa's giving money to the University of South Carolina to develop them, and we're not supposed to say it? It's on the Internet. So, they're claiming he's delusional because he's talking about military weapons, and that's not reason to lock anybody up. So, Michael Murphy's number. Now, Ramola, correct me if you have another one, but this is the one. This is the one I use. Let me pull up. This will be messaging, and
he's on LinkedIn. I just found him on LinkedIn.
Oh, he's on LinkedIn? Okay, well, you're going to give that information in a sec. Let me give you the number that I called because it seemed to get me where I needed to be today. And it is, and this comes from Michael Large himself. I've got a bunch of texts from Michael, Upper Moreland Police Department, phone number 215.
Hey, sorry, Eric. What's Michael Murphy? What's the deal with Michael Murphy?
He's the chief of police of the local police department that kidnapped Michael Large and took him out of his house off to the psychiatric ward. It was not the
what state is he in?
This is in Pennsylvania. Yeah, it's in PA. And the name of the city, Daniel, is Upper, UPPER, Upper Moreland. M as in Michael, ORELAND, Moreland. Upper Moreland Police Department, MORELAND. And it's in Pennsylvania. His name's Michael Murphy. Ramola just found him on LinkedIn. See what you can dig up on this guy. And I will give you the phone number while you're looking up some more details. Ramola, you're going to chime back in. We want to hear more from you as well. I want to get these numbers out there, though. So the number for Michael Murphy, the chief kidnapper of Michael Large, is 215-659-3100. That's 215-659-3100. 215-659-3100. 215-659-3100. I'm sure this guy thinks he's a good guy and thinks he's a crime fighter, and he's got to know that this is an absolutely ridiculous thing that he did. I imagine he had to know about it. This is a small police department. I don't think Upper Moreland is a huge city. He should know what his agents are doing, and he's liable under federal law. That I think it's Title U.S. 42, 1983. Says you can sue right up to the chief of police for the actions of his subordinates. That means if one of the officers does something corrupt or unlawful, or if one of the deputies does something corrupt or unlawful, that high sheriff or the chief of police, a man who is in charge of their training, is liable, because these officers were trained to do this. That's why they did it. They kidnapped a man, an Air Force veteran, for telling the truth. And so,
Eric,
go ahead.
Well, remember, under Title IV of the so-called Socialist Security Act, the funds that are administered out of your SSKD trust to the states and the Equal Access to Justice Act and other so-called government programs of the federal nature obligates all the states and their actors to be under federal law. And they provide funds that are administered from the Department of Health and Human Services, who administers Title IV of the Social Security Act, to the states, and also the Department of Justice administers under the other government acts to the so-called crime fighters. They have a substantial financial interest, and the states are apparently utilizing these funds because they are substantial. For every man, woman, or child they take into the state's version of care, they are supplied $25,000 at least per head. And if they can declare them to be special needs under any pretext or false moniker, label, or slanderous, libelous, incriminating label, or false glossa title they want to place on somebody, to take them psycho-political warfare, political terrorism hostage, and prey upon them for financial gain, is felony theft of government property by artifice, schemes, and devices of fraud. This is a waste, fraud, and abuse of official judicial discretion or governmental authority. And this is a very, very dangerous aspect, because anybody can have these false labels, slandering them, libeling them, placing false labels on them to prey upon them for financial, lust-satisfying, self-serving needs. They all have a vested financial interest, of substantial financial interest, in seizing people and placing in any type of states' versions or cities or counties of so-called care. They always work in cahoots with the corporate states, and they generally provide fairly large stipends, kickbacks, quid pro quo payoffs for any of their agents to do this, like the CPS, Department of Child and Family Protective Services agents that go out there supposedly to assess someone, or EMTs perhaps, in their case of your Pennsylvania location, who take them into custody. They get a financial bonus for taking anybody hostage. It's like putting a bounty on every human on the planet. And these people have no compunction, no moral scruples or ethics whatsoever. They're only in it for the money.
Well, exactly. Tanya in California, Tanya McCash, one of our group members, has discovered what's called judicial benefits, and the county is paying what's called judicial benefits to all these judges to keep basically doing what they're doing. So if you look up judicial benefits in your county, I highly recommend people do that. And I'm really glad you brought up the word, because I was just thinking about one of the numbers who I left out, is we need to call the man. There's one person who could make this all go away. And I mean specifically Michael Large going free and leaving that psychiatric hospital. And that's the Archbishop of the Diocese of Philadelphia, Mr. Big himself, Charles Chaput, C-H-A-P-U-T. His first name is Charles. Daniel Ramola, type in Charles Chaput, Archdiocese of Philadelphia. He's the Archbishop. He's the man with the power. Trust me, people, I've seen it. The Vatican's operatives in the Vicar General's office and the Archbishop's office have extreme direct power over the courts. I've watched it happen by actually going into the courts and observing what's going on. I saw the Federal Disability Claims Court approve a disability settlement for a gentleman here in Rochester who had 17 documented disabilities from Strong Memorial Hospital. I saw the paperwork. Legitimate claim, went through 6 years, hired an attorney, finally got his disability approved by the federal court. And guess who they appointed as what's called the payee? They wouldn't give him the money. They approved the settlement and then said the payee, the person who actually got the check, was Catholic Family Center run by the Vicar General and the Archbishop of Rochester, Dr. Joseph Hart and Lou Sirianni. And they got the money. And then he has to go to the Catholic Church, to the Vatican, to the Archbishop, and beg for his money that was given to him. It wasn't given. The disability money wasn't supposed to go to the Archbishop. It was supposed to go to this man, Mr. Lindsay. And so it was a nightmare. They finally changed the payee to someone in his family because, of course, they're claiming he's too disabled to handle his own money, although the guy's perfectly mentally sound. He's just got physical disabilities from an accident. And so anyway, trust me, people, the Archbishop has way more power than most of you know. And it's only because we usually involve either the Archbishop or his man, the Vicar General. The Vicar General is the Vatican tax collector for the Archbishop's office. And if you look up the word Vicar General in the dictionary, it'll say a priest or a lay person, that means either a priest or just a regular person like you or me, for a religious corporation responsible for appropriating the principal revenues, and we're the principal revenue. He's the tax collector for the Vatican at the local level. It's called the Vicar General. Look it up, people. Know your history. And let me just finish out the chain of command. The Vicar General there's directly. So in this case, the Vicar General will be, the Archbishop makes the final call. And with his intervention, Michael Large will go free. You mark my words. You should almost not make any other of the phone calls and just call the Archbishop and if he gets much better, Michael Large will go free. I guarantee it. But the court office, believe me, things will start happening. So the name of the Archbishop is Charles Chaput, C-H-A-P-U-T, and his number is, see how long it takes me to bring this up. Ramola, if you got it right in front of you, spit it out.
I have it right in front of me.
Heidi, you got the number now.
Oh wait, no, you might have a better number. You might have a better number. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I can tell you what I have. I've got the office of the moderator of the Curia. That's what I got.
That's what we want, because let me tell you what happened to me today. I called, Heidi sent me several numbers. One was for the Archbishop and the Diocese of Philadelphia. The other one was more for the Vicar General and some of the underagents. And the second, the moderator of the Curia, which you just mentioned, Romola. This is, by the way, the moderator of the Curia is one of the titles of the Vicar General who we just discussed. The Vicar General is usually listed under the diocese as VG for Vicar General, moderator of the Curia, and apparently, according to one of my researchers, the Curia are the 5 wealthy Roman families that fled Rome after the Goths attacked in 500 AD, and they went north into Europe, and it was called the Curia, and that's basically the families, the ancient families, the Orsinis, and the I don't have the list in front of me, but there's a list of family names that you've never recognized, that you've never heard, that are basically running all the royal families in the Vatican, and that's who the Archbishop is ultimately answering to, is the wealthy families that came out of Rome. They were called the Curia, and now to this day, you have the Vicar General in your town. People, look it up on the line. It'll say Vicar General, moderator of the Curia, and that's and they're being honest with you. You're still answering to the very wealthy royal families. The people you see on TV do not run the world, folks. And the people who run the world, you'll never see them on TV. You usually won't even hear their names. The Rothschilds are lower on the list, okay? So anyway, Read the number you have for moderator of the Curia Vicar General. So if it's Romola, you got that. Heidi would be the second numbers that you gave me, the one in the text that you sent me regarding the 3 Vicar Generals.
Sure, I have it right here. Oh, go ahead, Heidi. It's
I have 21558.
7-587-4507. That's the moderator.
Yep, that's what I have. I have the, and there's
perfect.
There are several Vicar Generals, so there was one.
You still there, Heidi?
I don't know where Heidi went.
Oh, did
Heidi just... Heidi left the meeting.
Oh, well, she didn't leave intentionally. She'll be back. She either had a phone problem or she's getting interfered with. She gets a lot of technical interference. Let me give the chief judge's name. Judge Silo seems to be the chief judge in charge of the mental health court. That buzz was probably Heidi coming back. The Judge Silo.
Yeah, I was disconnected.
Yeah, let me give Judge, while you were gone, I just wanted to give the judge's number, and then we'll get to the Vicar General and the Archbishop. But the judge's number, Judge Silo seems to be in charge of the other judges, S-I-L-O-W. His number is 610-278-1694. That's 1694. Once again, we're going to post these up at courtroomwatch.com like we usually do. We'll give you all the numbers. And Romola hopefully will post, and everybody will just post these numbers for people to call and help. Please free Micheal Large. He's an Air Force veteran.
Is his hearing scheduled?
No, he doesn't have it. Well, they wouldn't tell me. I couldn't tell whether she was telling me it wasn't scheduled or she didn't know if it was. I think it was a little confusing when I called the judge's secretary today, but she basically told me that I have to go to. Oh gosh, I'm going to have to remember this. It's called, anyway, it's the docket report for Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. I think it's called Montgomery Docket or something like that, but people, you're going to have to do a little bit of research on your own. We'll try to get the number up there, but the online, you want the docket report. It's called the docket report for Montgomery County court appearances. It'll have to be, if he's scheduled, it'll have to be in there. He's a neat little investigation you can do. You're not going to get in any trouble, people. Do some investigating and go to the docket report for Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, and find out if Micheal Large, L-A-R-G-E, is on that, if he has a hearing. You can find that. Send it immediately to courtroomwatch@gmail. That's COURTROOMWATCH, courtroomwatch@gmail.com. And let us know if you find out that Micheal has a hearing. As it stands right now, he doesn't appear to have any hearing. That's what I gathered from the secretary.
He would have a right to have an attorney there, wouldn't he?
Well, he has a lawyer, and the lawyer told him they can only hold him for 120 hours. They're beyond that 120 hours, and that's why I'm getting very irritated that they're unlawfully holding him beyond the amount of time that they're allowed to. They're locking him in his room and not letting him out of the room. They're not letting him have any phone calls. And
well, I'd like to talk to his attorney. Do you know who that is?
No, I don't even want to get involved with them. I've pinned it down on the attorneys right now. I always try to give them a chance, and I figured, well, maybe there's a good one out there, and, we'll get lucky someday, and we're going to find one that's going to work with us, and it's all BS. I'm dreaming. They all stink. They're all upheld. They're all sworn in New York. The 3 tenets of the Bar Association are, number 1, protect the judge. Number 2, protect the opposing attorney, which is usually the district attorney. And number 3, serve the client. You're last on the list, bro. You're at the very bottom. So they will not. I don't even want to know who it is. I'm going to be a little bit rude. Stay out of our way. I don't give a crap what they want to complain about. Oh, you're going to piss off the judge. Hey, all these phone calls are just going to make the judge mad. It's going to be worse on you. Okay, keep threatening your client. Keep trying to instill fear like the devil, and watch what happens. Okay, I don't want to hear it. The attorneys stink. I don't care if his lawyer is good, bad, or ugly. I don't want to know him. I don't want her. I don't care. Stay out of my way. I ain't going to stop broadcasting this. Here's the rubber meets the road. We've got about a 95% success rate. I don't mean to brag, because it's all a joint operation. But we got about 95% success rate getting people out of the slammer or out of the witch's psychiatric ward. Attorneys, you're lucky if you got a 50-50 chance, and they're going to charge you $50,000. We don't charge jack dookie. We get people out for free. We do God's work. We're not doing attorneys. So forgive my rant and rave there, but attorneys suck, and I'm not going to go, I don't care. I'm only going to tell them is right now, I don't want to talk with you. Stay out of our way. We're going to be calling the Archbishop. We're going to be calling the judge. We're going to be calling the Chief of Police, Mr. Murphy. We're going to be calling the CEO of the hospital that's kidnapped and holding him, Mr. Merlis. And we're not going to stop until he's free. There you go. There's your justice. So there's my deal on the attorney. If he wants to play ball, he can help us out. All right? We can, but I'm not going to listen to him. I'm not going to stand down.
Okay, I just asked if you knew who he was. I worked for attorneys for 25 years. I was a legal assistant, and I know how to speak with them and ask them what they do and what's going on.
The answer is no. I have no idea.
So, okay. Thank you. I'll get that information on my own. Thank you.
Okay. I didn't mean to go off on too far there, but
well, you did go off.
Yeah, well, I know, but, I have every right to because I've seen, let me tell you a little quick story here. Maybe we'll kick it back to Romola for some more facts, and we're going to get the Archbishop and his Vicar General's number out there. But in the Anna Taylor case in Connecticut, where Anna Taylor did a home birth, and the two doctors at the hospital didn't like her doing a home birth, so they called CPS, and Child Protective Services, go on mute. Child Protective Services had no problem with the babies. They said it's not neglected, the baby's not in danger, and it doesn't have any harm. So the two doctors at the hospital opened a case in the witch's court against Anna Taylor because she did a home birth, and they thought that was too dangerous, and the court ended up taking the kid, giving it to somebody else. And Anna went out and hired an attorney, Lisa Vincent. And Lisa Vincent told Anna Taylor, sign away your parental rights. Here's the paper, termination of parental rights. And Anna said, wait a minute, you're my attorney. You're supposed to be defending me. You're supposed to speak out on my behalf. If we lose, you're supposed to go to appeal. Remember? And the attorney said, we're going to lose this case. Forget it. Where's my money? And they went to court, and Anna Taylor put it all on the record. She said, my attorney's corrupt. This court is trafficking in human flesh of my child. Here's all my documents to prove it. The next day, the state police came to the courthouse when she was there and arrested her and took her to the psychiatric ward where they were going to sign, the doctor said they were going to sign her in for life. So that's, okay, the attorney not only let it happen, she helped facilitate it. Anna's attorney, not the district attorney, not the enemy at the outside the case, the enemy within the case. As Cicero in 44 AD said, the enemy at the gates is far less to fear. They carry the flag openly. The Democrats and the liberals and the Obamas and the witches' court and the they carry their flag up. But the attorneys and the lawyers that come and put your arm around you and say, hey, I'm your friend. I'll get you off. We'll get you out. We're going to get justice here. Those are the dangerous ones. The traitor within the gates is far more to fear than the enemy outside the gates, which carries its flag openly. So anyway, the attorneys are the enemies within the gates, and that's where I stand. But I don't know who his attorney is, and I'm really glad I don't. Because we're just going to do our thing right now. And every time I have an attorney tell us to stay out of it, the person ends up suffering, and the court destroys their life. And every time we give it balls to the wall, everything we got with what we're doing in our phone blitz and emails and activism, people get out. So anyway, with that, we're going to get over to the big cheese himself, Mr. Charles Chaput, the Archbishop of Philadelphia. This is the guy who has the final say in everything. They're not going to admit it, and they're not going to come clean and tell you that, but trust me, I've seen the courts give everything from Social Security settlements. I had a woman call me from Schoharie County and tell her that the court had just taken her kid and they were giving it to Catholic charities to be quote-unquote examined. Just what you want to do, give a child to the largest pedophile network in the world, the Catholic Church, to have your child examined after it's taken from the parents by Child Protective Services. So anyway, the Archbishop has great power in this matter. We want Michael Large to go free, and Archbishop Chaput can make it happen. So with that, I'm going to let Romola give out Archbishop Chaput's number slowly and repeat it 2 or 3 times. Go ahead, Romola.
Okay, that's the Office of the Moderator of the Curia, 215 215-587-4507. That's 215-587-4507. And there's also an email address, actually, so that one might be handy for people who just want to write a letter to him. It's omtc@archfila.org. So that's omtc@arch, which is ARCH, Phila, PHILA, Philadelphia, archfila.org. So omtc@archfila.org, and the phone number one more time is 215-587-4507. So that's where you address the Archbishop, I presume, but you are sending it to this office, which is the office of the moderator of the Curia.
The moderator of the Curia, the Vicar General, the direct underling of the Archbishop himself, the man with the power, 215-587-4507. Did you ever want to kind of talk to the man behind the curtain, folks? Did you ever want to really make a difference and talk to the deep state or the shadow government or all these euphemisms that people use? This is the guy with the real power, the Vicar General who works for the Archbishop. Talk to either one of them. The Vicar General's name is Timothy Senior, Senior. That's Timothy Senior, Senior, and the Vicar General is Charles Chaput, Chaput. Ask for either one of them or both, and the phone number is 215-587-4507. Once again, it's 215-587-4507. Okay, or send an email. We'll repeat that again before the night's over, and we're going to post all this up at courtroomwatch.com. Ramola, D, R-A-M-O-L-A, the initial D, and Citizens Against Harmful Technologies. I'm sure we'll be posting up this information as well. We want to get as many people to call on behalf of Michael Large as possible, and let's show them how large his support is so they don't do this to the rest of us. If they're making an example out of him, they're doing a test case. This is a military experiment. We're going to do our own test case here, and we're going to prove how fast we can get him out. And we're going to set a precedent that they're not going to get away with this. We're making our own statement here. This is a big deal. Your voice matters, people. It's not a small thing that you can just put off and say, well, let somebody else do it. I wouldn't want to get in any trouble. I wouldn't want to go on any list or anything. Hey, let me tell you something, people, brothers and sisters, everybody's on a list. And the people who really stand up and do it in a professional, righteous sort of way with God on their side always end up winning. And the people who take the side of the enemy usually lose in the long run. No tyranny has ever lasted forever, whether it's ancient Rome, ancient Egypt, pick your Nazi Germany. Communist China is collapsing under its own weight. And riots of over 100,000 people. I've seen them. They're unbelievable. People there really standing up against communism in a large way. But because they've been disarmed, they're an easy target for a out-of-control government. And that's why one of the main, I think, points of the court and of the police in this is to, and somebody brought this up earlier, sure, they're going to incarcerate him. They're going to make thousands of dollars a day. They're going to set an example to other patriots to shut up. But also, one of the main things is they're going to be able to take his guns now. They're going to say, well, you were locked up in a psychiatric hospital for 2 weeks back in 2019. Is that correct? Turn in your guns. You're mentally unfit. There must have been some reason why you were in there. The government wouldn't just lock up somebody who's innocent. Oh, yes, they would, and they do. So with that, I'm going to kick it back to Ramola and Miss Powers. Dave Pruitt, Chris in Las Vegas, chime in anytime you want.
Well, I just want to thank you, Eric. You've done a fantastic job. Thank you for, putting all this information out there. And I just wanted to say one of the things that really helps in situations like this is a little bit of publicity, of the kind that you're engaging in, but also if anybody wants to call up the chief of police, call up, the hospital head, and then report back. I'd be happy to report on it. A little bit of press goes a long way, I can tell you, in helping to get people out of these places. Because in the past, just writing an article and just reporting on the basic facts of the situation, straight up reportage, gets people in a tizzy and makes them realize that they're suddenly under the spotlight. And that's the message we want to send out, especially to the police. Because police have no right to do what they have done over here in this particular case, simply arresting Michael for no reason whatsoever and now holding him in this hospital for more than 5 days without a psych evaluation, without any reason to keep him there. So the police need to get a message from the citizenry that these 302 holds are illegal. Just because they have a form and they have a protocol does not mean they can simply grab people off the streets, take them to an ER, and pronounce them psychologically inept or needing a delusional diagnosis and needing medication, etc. So this is a message that we need to give the police. This notion of being at risk is very wrong, and we need to make a strong stand and give them that message as well. So in any case, all I'm saying is, a little bit of press coverage, a little bit of reportage at all times is very useful. So if anyone is ever in this kind of situation, call me, and I'll cover it.
I was just going to say, tell very slowly and clearly, and I want you to do it slow because people can write it down. Tell people how they can get a hold of you and report back on whatever they might find.
Okay, let me give you my email address. The basic email address that I give everybody is ramolad@hushmail.com. I'll spell it. It's RAMOLAD, Ramolad, @hushmail.com, and that's HUSHMAIL.com. That's pretty much the best way to send me a note. Or you could reach me on Twitter. You can DM me on Twitter. My Twitter ID is ECC Everyday. That's ECC, which is an acronym for Everyday Concerned Citizen. ECC Everyday. And please DM me there. You can reach me directly there. Where else? I'm on Facebook with my full name, which is Romola Dharmaraj.
Spell your last name. Spell it.
Okay. The last name is DHARMARAJ. Although I have to tell you, I'm siding with Chris Prude in this matter, who's been talking about dog Latin and so forth. I've been following Romney Stewart a lot, and I'm considering just using my Christian name from now on. Send a message that, I'm a free being to one and all, because something is tied up with the last name. They are using the last name to enslave people, as most of you may know. But in any case, on Facebook, you can find me as Romola Dharmaraj, DHARMARAJ. And I'll give you my cell. So if people need to reach me in an urgent way and need to convey information to me, 202-378-7485. That's 202-378-7485.
Oh, isn't that nice of you? That's great. Yeah, people contact Romola. You can reach Eric or Daniel at courtroomwatch.com. At gmail.com. Courtroomwatch, just like the website, COURTROOMWATCH @gmail. So just shoot us an email and we'll get back to you. We try to get back to everybody and do what we can, one case at a time. That's all we can do. It does get overwhelming sometimes to see all the evil and horrible things that are happening to such good people like Michael Large and like Anna Taylor and Tanya McCash and Jody in Michigan and all the people. And Heidi has been a victim of this, who's on with us tonight. Chris in Las Vegas. I mean, we've all been trampled. Dave Pruitt even, they tried to trample him, but without very much success, because he tramples back. But and I've had it, and so we're all in this together. And believe me, trust me, people, it's coming for everybody. These cases that we're doing are the enemy dipping their toe in the water, seeing how the water is, if they want to jump in or not, seeing who's going to resist, seeing who's going to stand up, seeing how much backlash there's going to be from the public. We need to make a big backlash because these cases are a test case for all of the rest of us. When I look at Micheal Large or any of these other people being locked up, I see myself. It could very well easily be me or you out there listening to this right now. And it could happen for any number of reasons. It could be because your neighbor doesn't like you. It could be because one of your family members doesn't like you. That happens a lot. And in those cases are the most dangerous because once they can get families divided and fighting with each other, they can use the say-so of one family member to lock up another family member. And that one family member may be doing it out of greed or just out of dislike and get guardian ad litemship or power of attorney or, all these other personal property, money, control over an estate. I mean, it goes on and on. The motives are many. And so the court system is very insidiously, it's very evil. They're always looking to be able to divide families. One brother against sister, mother against son, cousin against grandpa, whoever it is. I've seen it happen many times. So stay tight with your family. If you got people who you can't get along with, distance yourself from them out of your own personal safety. You may have to do it. I know it's painful sometimes, but once you get family members fighting in court, it gets very dangerous because the court will start doing anything it can to further the incarceration. Because don't forget, people, every one of these judges has a pension that they're going to be relying on for their retirement, and they like to retire early. And if you go online and look up under the private prison building industry, like Correction Corporation of America, which is a private prison facility, they have like 1,000 prisons around the country. One of them was holding the Bundys, private prison. And guess what? All these state pension funds, like the New York State Pension Fund and the Texas Teachers Common Pension Fund and the California Public Employees Pension Fund, they're all invested in the private prison industry. So every one of these judges that's hearing every one of these cases is directly invested through their pension program, invested in the private prisons that they're sending people to through their court. Tell me that's not a direct conflict of interest. That's RICO. That's racketeering and conspiracy. That was easy to prove because all these judges are public employees, and you write online it says their public employees pension fund is invested in the prison industry or the pharmaceutical industry when they're prescribing, forcibly medicating people like they did with Tanya McCash. They told her to take the drug. She said no, and they locked her up in a prison psychiatric ward for 3 weeks. We got her out in a couple of days. She didn't have to stay the whole 3 weeks. And then they're basically leaving her alone, but she's under massive restriction. But the judge just told her from the bench, with no input from any doctor, he just said, I think you need to be medicated. I think you need these drugs. She's like, you don't have a medical degree. You're not a doctor. You don't have a psych eval, and you don't have a letter from a doctor or anything. What do you mean? You're a judge. What are you telling me to take drugs for? And guess what? This Judge Manley in Santa Clara, California, he's the head of the drug court. So he's pushing drugs. He's the head of the drug court, arresting people for cocaine and marijuana, and then he's pushing pills from the pharmaceutical industry on all these people that come through his drug court. So he's basically a drug transfer court. He's transferring people from one drug to another, from a drug that's being independently produced in either South America or California, and putting them on pharmaceutical drugs because the California Public Employees Pension Fund that he's invested in is heavily invested in Merck and AstraZeneca and all the corporations that make the drugs that he's pushing. How convenient. So there's another way that they're directly profiting from these cases, like the large. And one thing I'll throw in there just so people get the full picture, every court case is bonded through the General Services Administration. It's called GSA Form 274 and 275, and all the courts do is take out a bond, like an insurance policy, on every case that comes across. And that bond accrues interest, so if they can drag out a drug charge for 6 months or a DWI charge for a year or a custody battle for 3 or 4 years, that bond that they've taken out on that case is making millions. Every single case, especially the small traffic court cases, because they come through a couple hundred a week in many of these cities, they're making an absolute fortune on bonding the court cases, and that explains why they protract or prolong all these legal proceedings. It's not just so the attorneys can make a whole bunch of money dragging it on. The courts are bonding to every case, and they're making a whole bunch of money on that. So through their pension fund, through their bonding of the court cases, through the General Services Administration, and several other mechanisms, they're making an absolute fortune. It's one of the main enterprises that's keeping the American economy up to where it is. It's the phony baloney stock market with corporations buying back their own stock and the courts trafficking in human flesh by bonding every court case that comes through, which means they're bonding you and me. They're bonding Michael Large. They're treating us like cattle, and the bonds are sold on the open market as real estate investment trusts. So we're all being looked at as a piece of real estate, and they're sold to the Chinese, Goldman Sachs, the Vatican Bank, the Rothschild Bank, the Queen of England's Ottawa Trust Holdings. Everybody, the whole entire world owns court cases and people that are going through court in America, like Michael Large or anybody else who's got a court battle. So the whole runs very deep. The profiteering is intense. It's conflict of interest, to put it nicely. It's racketeering and conspiracy, to put it honestly, and it needs to stop. And we can stop it by shutting down one case at a time. We kind of focus on the bigger ones where a veteran comes through with something really, information that's very potent and very damaging to the. It's information that the government doesn't want people to hear. It makes it very uncomfortable for the government to know that they've legalized experimentation on American citizens through the Strom-Thurmond National Defense Act of 1961, as Chris was eloquently putting before. So, they don't want the whole entire world knowing that they're scamming us and locking us up for arbitrary reasons. And so they're trying to silence people here and there, a little bit at a time. Take a Michael Large here, take an Anna Taylor there, take Tanya McCash here, or Stephen Dean there. And they do a couple in every county, and they think they're going to take out basically the people who talk a little more than the most do, the ones who really want to tell the truth and do it with passion and really expose the wrongdoings of the incorporated government. And those people are zeroed in, are picked out by the powers that be and persecuted. And it's happening right now to Michael Large is his name, Large. We're encouraging everybody to call Lawrence Merlis, the CEO of the hospital in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. Also Chief Murphy, Michael Murphy of the Upper Moreland Police Department. Those are the goons that took him out of his house. And, of course, the Archbishop of Philadelphia, Mr. Chaput, or one of his vicar generals, depends on who you can get through to. Give it your best shot, and be nice and professional when you call, but I'm begging people to call on behalf of this man. Just imagine yourself telling the truth, and then for that reason being locked up in a room for 24 hours a day with no hope of getting out, being threatened with forced medication, no telephone, crappy food, God knows what's in the water. They're going to want to stick you with vaccines. Who knows what's in the needle? You don't know when you're going to get out. You don't have a hearing scheduled. They're not putting you up in front of a judge where you can speak your case. Even when they do, the judge is going to tell you can't say anything. Only your attorney can speak on your behalf. That's what they did to Solange Martinez. They didn't even let her make a statement on her own behalf and told her she was going to get locked up for 60 years. She was representing herself. And because she didn't have an attorney, they pretended, well, we don't hear you. You're not an attorney. You're not capable of defending yourself. Just go back to the psychiatric prison and stay there for the rest of your life. I don't think so. Solange is a free woman right now, and she's out because of what all you did helping on her behalf. So we encourage you to do the same thing for Michael Large. I don't bring crappy cases before you people. These people who I'm advocating for are nice people. They're decent-hearted. They're usually really sweet, soft-spoken, nice. They're not in your face. They're not freaking out. They're not hurting anybody or themselves, and they're patriots, and they've got a lot of guts to stand up to the system and expose what they're exposing. So I have a lot of respect for other activists, people who are getting her done, people who have enough balls to go out there and actually take on the Antichrist system that we're living under. And so, and because I know that these special patriots like Michael Large and Solange Martinez and Tanya McCash and Anna Taylor, the ones who are really kind of, really standing up and doing a good job with great paperwork filing, and they're really smart. These are test cases. The system wants to take out what you would call like the bigger fish in the movement, so to speak. The ones whose voices really have power. And I've noticed it's a particular pattern against women, which makes it really grotesque that they're hurting women like that. Michael Large is the first man that we've tried helped out the last 4 or 5 cases. They've been all women, and so I thought that was particularly disturbing. That they're locking up women even more than men because of their patriotic activity and their truth telling. So, and it's just a low blow to start abusing women and children and all these other things. And that's why we come together and we stand up here with Courtroom Watch and Romola D and the Citizens Against Harmful Technologies. We appreciate you guys being with us. I wanted to give you some more time to talk about either details of the case, peripheral issues, or just general concepts. I just want to turn the mic back over to Romola and our friend Ms. Powers. If you left anything out, if you'd like to make some additions to what I'm suggesting, we've already recommended people have a psychiatric living will. That was the idea that comes from Ms. Powers over at Citizens Against Harmful Technologies. I recommend a habeas corpus as well, because I'm a kind of a court guy, and that's a good document to present in court, a habeas corpus. That's HABESCORPUS. It means have the body, show the body, bring the person before the court, and claim that there's a victim. If there's no victim, there's no crime. They must go free. So anyway, Romola, back to you and your lovely friend, Ms. Powers. Chris, if you have anything to interject, please come in and help out.
Thanks, Eric. I'll turn it over to Skizit because I think perhaps she can share basics on her website and so forth. Skizit, are you still there?
Ms. Powers?
Well, Eric, this is Daniel from Studio 1776. We have about 3 minutes left on the program. Just wanted to let you know, give you a heads up on that.
Sounds good. I'll let anybody else take up the last few minutes if they want. Should we just keep giving out the numbers one more time? Because this is where we're here for Michael Large, who's locked up in a psychiatric hospital against his will. He simply was telling the truth and bringing forward evidence and of government programs that are being used against American citizens. I think we're going to turn the last couple of minutes over to Chris. Chris, repeat the federal statute one more time for people that legalizes military and medical experimentation on American citizens without their knowledge or consent.
Not sure that Chris is with us at the moment. We have 5 callers on the line right now.
Okay. Chris might have bailed out or he lost his cell reception, but we've heard before earlier in this broadcast that it's the Strom Thurmond, if people want to refer to, see why this is all happening and it's all legal. It's the Strom Thurmond National Defense Act of 1961. I believe it's under 10 U.S. Code, section, chapter 10. So, and we're going to get all this information posted up on our websites as well. But it's just so people know that, they think this is legal. The cops think this is legal to just scoop people up. The hospitals think it's legal to experiment on people. They have no problem with it. And so
the way it's working actually, Eric, is that once you're watch listed, I think what happens also is you become an indefinite detainee under military law. And once you become an indefinite detainee, then what kicks in is what Heidi was talking about. You become seen by the FBI and the police, the cops, as a non-person, a non-investigative subject. And therefore, your body no longer belongs to you. You are now a property of the state. And they think, this is color of law. It is not legal. It is not lawful. But this is how they've written it on paper. So they think they own you, and they think they can use you for experimentation. There's a military directive as well, 5240.1R. It's on our website. It's on many people's websites. It's all about how, if you are an indefinite detainee, you can be experimented on in any number of ways.
Well, this is what we're trying to prevent from happening to our friend Michael Large, so I encourage people to call. We've given the numbers out. We're about to come up against the end of our time here, so I just want to encourage people to care and care about Michael Large, because if you don't care about him, people aren't going to care about you either. What goes around comes around, and any help you can give this man would be awesome. We're going to try to set up a Facebook page to give updates. Romola D has her web presence. We have courtroomwatch.com. Single parents, our friends over at Single Parents are quite numerous, and we're going to hope they're going to get involved as well. Any military people or guys who respect military or veterans, this guy served in the Air Force from 1970 to 1974. He was honorably discharged, okay? And I would think that if he had some kind of major psychological problem, it probably would have come out somewhere in his military service. You know, so I think the fact that he served honorably in our military lends him credibility. His name's Michael Large, L-A-R-G-E. He's being held at Abingdon Hospital. It's a strange kind of name, but it's A-B-I-N-G-T-O-N. It's in Pennsylvania in a county called Montgomery County, which is famous for corruption. I believe the Kids for Cash scandal, where the judge was selling children through his court into a private prison facility for years for minor offenses like having a fight on Facebook. He went to prison. But Montgomery County is ripe with corruption. We need to stop it there so it doesn't come here. That means to you all listening to this broadcast. I want to thank Romola D. It's R-A-M as in Michael, O-L-A. R-A-M-O-L-A, and then the initial D. And she's all over the YouTube and on the Internet. She's easy to find. Please keep her updated. Keep us updated if you find anything at courtroomwatch.com. The email is courtroomwatch@gmail.com. Thanks to Chris in Las Vegas for bringing his brilliance to our table tonight. Thanks for David Pruitt for being kind of kicking in the background and watching our back, so to speak. We're going to be on again doing a broadcast every couple. We're going to do a lot of updates on this. If Michael Large is still held beyond Monday, we're going to really start freaking out. And meanwhile, I want people to call the Archbishop of Philadelphia, the CEO of the Abingdon Hospital, that's Mr. Merlis, and Michael Murphy, who's chief of the police department that took Michael Large out of his apartment and off to the psychiatric hospital. And don't forget, people, without the executioners and the low-level goon squads to do this, this stuff wouldn't happen. If there weren't all these executioners at the lower level in the police departments willing to do this, the judges can spit into the wind and it'll blow back in their face. Let the hospital blab about this or that. Everybody walks out. I want to encourage people to call on Michael Large's behalf and realize that the executioners are ultimately to blame for going through with these kidnappings of patriots in their own home, simply for telling the truth. So we're going to wrap it up now. Romola, anything else you want to add before we go? We're going to be back on, though, within the next day or two, I can assure you. We're not going to let this go, are we?
Oh, this is great. No, I think hopefully people will be fired up and will indeed call. And, there are some email addresses as well, so you can write a letter if you can't call. Nothing much to add at this point, Eric. I think you've covered it all. But as you say, it's definitely a case to keep very close eye on and continue to report as we proceed.
Oh, you're so awesome. Thanks for your professionalism. I know I get passionate sometimes, but it's just because I want to see justice and righteousness done. I want to see, I want to see this country. This country has so many good people in it. It really was. I've just run into so many of them when I'm out at my work and driving all around this part of the state. We really have some good people in this country from all backgrounds, where it doesn't matter where you're from. And I wish they would wake up a little more and realize that we've allowed great evil to take over our government at the local, state, and federal level. And the Archbishop, which is the Vatican interest, has extreme power over your courts and over your local economy, people. So if you really want to make a difference, put the heat on the Archbishop. If he makes some phone calls for Michael Large is going to walk out of that psychiatric hospital a free man. And boy, would he be happy. That'd make me happy. And then we can, kind of take a rest and wait for the next case to come up because it's happening everywhere. So thanks a lot, you guys. Thank you to Dave Pruitt for being there at Pruitt's Tree Resin. I want people to go if they want to. Dave does so much for us when we have issues like this. He has a great knack for communicating with the Archbishop himself, and he does it in a very poignant, professional way. So I want people to encourage people to go shop at Pruitt'sTreeResin.com for any type of skin ointment. He sells ancient tree resin that works miracles on cuts, burns, infections, cysts, any type of bruising, or it's great topical and internal, very, very powerful medicine, been used for hundreds of years. Okay, so Pruitt'sTreeResin.com. I want to thank Ramola D. That's Ramola, and then the initial D. Make sure you go and check her out and keep her updated on anything you discover with your own personal investigations. I know we have a lot of people out there who have enough guts who are going to look into this. And just few people out there looking into it sometimes is enough for the system to know that we, a lot of people want Micheal Large to go free. I'm encouraging all our veterans to get active. I want to thank Chris in Las Vegas. I want to thank Ramola's friend, Ms. Powers, at Citizens Against Harmful Technologies, which is a great resource to have, and I want to thank her for being with us tonight as well. We went on for quite a long time, but I'm not going to let this one go. I'm going to be up all night doing more research on this, communicating with our fellow activists, and, I'm going to spend my entire weekend working on this case and make another round of calls. Next week, I already spoke to the Mr. Merlis' assistant at the hospital that's holding him. She was really nice and assured me that she'd get him the information. I hope she does. If she gets 100 calls, that's going to be a big help to our friend Mr. Micheal Large, who's being held at Abingdon Hospital in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. And I want to thank Heidi in Minnesota. If you want to follow her online, it's Crystal Shen, S-H-E-N as in Nancy, and that's kind of her nickname online.
It's on Twitter, excuse me.
Twitter.
It's on Twitter, it's Crystal Shen 6 is the ad. It's at Crystal Shen 6 is what you type up there. So go ahead.
Crystal Shen 6. Okay, got it. It's so nice.
That's the username. Mm-hmm.
Yep, and I want to thank you, directly right now for bringing this case to my attention, and then you put me together with Ramola, who's a bevy of knowledge and activism, and I so appreciate her professional and nice level-headed delivery. We need people like her to keep us anchored, because I get excited about these cases just because I really want people who need to go free to go free. If people who need to be in prison, there's some of them. There's people out there who are violent or commit rape or commit theft and do things that they may need some punishment for, but not people like Micheal Large, who's a U.S. Air Force veteran that served honorably and simply was doing the truth teller thing and bringing forth a whole bunch of information that the government doesn't want to get out there. And he's not being accused with releasing any classified information. He's just being told that he's delusional because he's talking about stuff that makes the government uncomfortable. Now, if that's going to be the standard for incarceration, then we're in big trouble in this country, people, and Trump ain't fixing it. Obama didn't fix it. Bushes didn't fix it. Ain't nobody going to fix it except us. Buy local, fix local, and you can start fixing local by helping Micheal Large get out of the psychiatric ward where he's being held in his room for 24 hours a day. If I did that to my dogs, I'd go to jail and they'd take my dogs, okay? But we can do it to a man? That's insane. We're insane if we let this happen, literally. So people, please get involved. I know I can count on you, all our listeners out there, all our followers, all our fellow activists, all you good people at Single Parents, helping single parents. I know we're going to get posting this broadcast up there. We're going to be posting it at Courtroom Watch, Ramola D, Citizens Against Harmful Technologies, the Anti-Illuminati Party, and as many platforms as we can. And we need all you people out there to be a force multiplier and retwitter it, repost it, blast it, share it, get it out there. And so if everybody, if we have thousands of people listening and they get it out to each, a couple of dozen people, that brings it up to hundreds of thousands. So we can make this happen, and I really want to get this case resolved because they're being very rude at the hospital. They're treating him very harshly I have not seen them treat a patient this harshly. I don't think ever. This one's bad. This one is really serious. So I hope people will forgive me if I get a little excited, but believe me, people, y'all out there, if you were in this guy's shoes, you'd want somebody getting excited on your behalf so you get your rear end out of the prison facility or the psychiatric hospital, and they're locking people up for anything and everything now. So this can come for anybody. Don't think it's just them, or he was just talking about this, it's his own fault. No, they're picking out people who are influential, and they're going to eventually do it to anybody and everybody. And that means you and me all listening to this broadcast. So get involved, people. Do your stuff. We've been having really good success lately getting people out. Let's get Michael Large out, and I'm going to let Romola have the closing words, Romola and Daniel.
Oh, well, thanks very much, Eric. And, as anyone who's listening, I would just ask, go to Citizens Against Harmful Technologies and also my website of the Everyday Concerned Citizen. There are many, many articles there really actually reporting on what's going on in the country today, the extent of these surveillance abuses and targeting, which many people don't know about because mainstream media does not cover it. However, I should also point out that whistleblowers have been speaking about it, and I've been interviewing several whistleblowers from the NSA, the CIA, and the FBI. And they have these are the extraordinary, exceptional whistleblowers, I should say, the ones who are actually speaking about it. And I will mention Karen Stewart, an NSA whistleblower who has herself become targeted because she spoke out against corruption internally, etc., and she questioned a certain case, a certain lack of promotion being afforded her. So she came under the internal eye of NSA security, who unleashed directed energy weapons targeting on her. So, she is somebody who is bearing witness to the fact that these weapons are being used on citizens in America today. Similarly, CIA whistleblower Barbara Hartwell, who also reports extreme persecution with directed energy weapons, and COINTELPRO over several years after she left the CIA. And FBI whistleblower Gerald Sosby, who tells us really what the FBI is all about. In fact, if you go to my webpage today, the homepage has an article. It's a republication of an article that Gerald Sosby has written about J. Edgar Hoover and COINTELPRO and the kind of fascist operations that Hoover set in place way back then that has filtered into the current operations of the FBI, which, as we know, is the nation's top police organization. So the FBI and police are very closely interlinked, and what they are doing is profoundly illegal, illegitimate, and unlawful currently because it engages in surveillance abuse with directed energy weapons and radiation and stealth weaponry. This is something everybody should know about. So, as I say, just go, please do some research, check out the words from these whistleblowers, check out all of the other reportage on my site, on Skizit's site, and on many other sites. There's also targetedjustice.org. There's surveillanceissues.com, which is Paul Baird's site. There's mindjustice.org, Cheryl Welsh's site. Big Brother Watching, which is Rennie Pittman Mitchell's site, and newworldwar.org from Mark Rich. All of these will give you the latest information on what really is going on.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. You repeat a couple of those. First of all, I want to give yours another plug, and then repeat those again about the Big Brother and the mind control. Hold on. It's Everyday Concerned Citizen. Is that yours?
That's mine. The Everyday Concerned Citizen is mine. That's everydayconcerned.net.
Yeah.
And Paul Baird's site, absolutely classic, is surveillanceissues.com.
Okay.
And Cheryl Welsh's site, again, she was a law student when she was targeted, and she did massive amounts of research and put it all online, and she's still publishing. Cheryl Welsh's site is mindjustice.org. And she's got a whole bunch of justice and mind control weapons. Similarly, Rennie Pittman's site. Now, Rennie Pittman is the author of more than 5 books, I think, at this point. She's made documentaries. I think her site is Big Brother Watching. BigBrotherWatching.com, maybe.
Big Brother Watching. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Excellent resources. Wow. So we want to encourage people to go, especially to Ramola's site, Everyday Concerned Citizen. And then our guest we had on earlier tonight, Ms. Powers, is Citizens Against Harmful Technologies. And I also encourage people to look into the University of South Carolina getting a grant from Darpa, that's DARPA, to do research into mind-altering weapons, psychological weapons, interfacing people's brains, soldiers' brains with computers, soldiers and pilots. These things are very real. These programs are very real. I wasn't into this in the past, but lately, since I've really seen such obvious evidence that this is going on, it's all very real. And so I encourage people to confirm that on their own by checking out Everyday Concerned Citizen, Citizens Against Harmful Technologies. Ramola mentioned a couple others, Big Brother Watching, and Mind Justice. You can also, like I said, go to look into the University of South Carolina, DARPA. Type that in, and they have funding from the federal government at USC, University of South Carolina. I believe it's in Charleston, and is it in Charleston? I forget which city it's in, the University of South Carolina.
Excuse me, Eric, are you thinking of the Medical University of South Carolina, the MUSC?
That's it, MUSC, the Medical University. Yes, Heidi, good job. You want to fill in some of the details on this?
It was a while ago. That was just they wanted to create the brain-computer interface, which has come a long way since then probably, but they wanted to create, interface the soldiers' brains with the computer and then have it all go to a central command. And actually, now there are two little developments that are kind of significant. One of them is that the brain, that's a BCI, the brain-computer interface, and now they've actually officially declared, I don't know how long they've been doing it, but now they're declaring that they've created a brain-to-brain interface, or that they've made strides in this. So they're doing the BBI, so the BCI, and we have the, I also found stuff a day or two ago about there's a thing called the body area network, so that when they have chips, well, they're in the diagram they had just like devices on their clothing, but this is meant to be for chips inside the body, and it's called the body area network, and a lot of the targeted people know about that. But I found that they're working specially on developing the network protocols and such for a soldier body area network, so that they can have all these chips and stuff, likewise communicating with a central command. So, amongst each other in the body and then with a central command. So.
Good work. Wow, yes, the Medical University of South Carolina, MUSC. That was right, because you've got it right on the head. And don't forget, they've already developed the most, and they describe it as the most powerful, the world's most advanced brain monitoring device. It's called the TORNURO-CORE, and it's being used by Israeli pilots in particular. The license for the machine called the TORNURO-CORE has been given to Israeli aircraft industries because they're using it to interface the pilots with computers to enhance their performance. So, and it's not just Israel, it's the U.S., it's England, it's the entire, it's Chinese, I'm sure, are using it. So it's not just this, I'm not saying it's an Israeli thing, but they do happen to hold the license, Israeli Aircraft Industries, which I believe recently changed its name, trying to hide from all this, but it's not going to work. We're going to expose it. We're going to get Michael Large out of this facility. I want to thank Ms. Powers, Citizens Against Harmful Technologies, Ramola D. from Everyday Concerned Citizen, Daniel Leach from Single Parents Helping SingleParents.org, and Studio 1776, and Dave Pruitt from Pruitt Tree Resin, and our legal scholar Chris in Las Vegas. And we're all going to exchange numbers and increase our numbers so we can free people like Michael Large, with a couple of hundred or preferably a couple of thousand phone calls faxes, emails, people looking into this on their own, people coming up with fresh information. So I'm really begging people to get involved. Make a few calls and send some emails on behalf of Micheal Large, L-A-R-G-E, U.S. Army Air Force veteran, honorably discharged, old-timer. He served from 1970 to 1974, so he's got to be up there, even older than me. So, and that's quite a statement, but we want to get him out. They have no business incarcerating this poor old man who's just a sweetheart of a guy that can't figure out why he's being held, because he has absolutely no psychological problems and no physical problems, other than he got dragged out by his local police on a 302, and now he's locked up in a psych ward because he's telling the truth. That's the long and short. So if there's anything else you want to add, Romola, before we wrap it up, we're going to be on this again like a fly on you-know-what, and then over the next every couple of days, I'd like to do some kind of update, whether it's Romola or me or us together. However we got to do it, we're going to do it. But we're going to keep the information flowing on this case, and we need people to keep the pressure on the hospital, Mr. Merlis, on the court, Judge Silo, on the chief of police that kidnapped him, Michael Murphy of the Upper Moreland Police Department, and the Archbishop Charles Chaput and his vicar generals. That's what they call themselves. That's not me making this up, people. So call the vicars and the bishops. They have the power. They're the ones that can really make this go away. If you had to pick one person in this whole thing that you would want to pick out and say this guy can make a difference, it's the Archbishop. And he can really make it happen. Now, you may have trouble getting a hold of him. He's the Archbishop of Philadelphia. He doesn't just, I don't think, you may get a call back. You may get through to him directly. It's usually going to be one of his people. This is why we call the vicar generals, because they're usually more accessible. They're usually a priest with a parish and a congregation and a place where they go every Sunday and say Mass. The vicar general is usually more accessible. The Archbishop kind of hides behind the big walls of the castle, like the prince, so to speak, but he needs the phone calls as well. So people get on this, stay on it. We need next week to be huge. I'd like to see people filling up some voicemail boxes this weekend, and then next week follow up with some more calls. If you don't get a call back, tell them you're going to call every couple of days. Don't forget, people, you have every right to call any public entity every single day if you have what's called a legitimate purpose, and this is certainly a legitimate purpose. There's being a guy been kidnapped by the local police. He's an honorable veteran, and he's being held against his will. Let him go. So this is a legitimate purpose, and anybody who's in the public eye, the judge, the chief of police, the CEO of the hospital, and the Archbishop and the vicar generals themselves. They are all public officials, so you can call them every day. Don't let anybody tell you to stop calling or you can't call. Make sure you keep the heat turned up to high, because this is a big case. I don't like what they're doing to this man. They're denying him phone calls. They're locking him in his room 24/7. They've even denied him a holy Bible. They won't even give the man a Bible to read while he's in his cell. They give hardcore murderers and prisoners in the maximum security prison and penitentiary. They get a Bible. Why can't they give it to this guy? He hasn't hurt anybody. It's insane what's going on. So there's some really good reasons for people to get involved out there. If you're a veteran, if you're a Christian, if you're a single parent, if you just care, please get involved and help Micheal Large. We need to make some calls on his behalf and keep calling until they let him go, period. And with that, I'm going to let Romola and Daniel close it out.
I'll turn it over to Daniel, Eric. I think I've said pretty much everything I needed to say. Please call everybody. And, in addition to all of the numbers that you have given out, perhaps calling Michael himself and, conveying a message to the nurses and the doctors there in that hospital that it's perfectly normal to call and ask to speak to a friend who is in the hospital, whether he's there for a medical reason or whether he's there involuntarily because the police wrongfully arrested him and dragged him in there. So it's a little bit of friendly support and solidarity is never going to hurt. So whatever the nurses say, it's still a good idea to call and, just say hello and say, I'd like to speak to my friend Michael and make sure he's doing okay.
I think that's a great idea. Let me give out the number up at the nursing station if I can pull that up here real quick. Hang on one second. I think we want to try, Abingdon, let's do this. I think this is it. Yeah, if people want to call more directly to where Michael's being held, and I didn't give this number out before because these people are not necessarily the ones who are going to be able to let him go. And I don't want to, pardon the French, I don't want to piss off the people who are immediately over him. I don't want them poisoning his food or restricting his privileges, so I didn't want to put too much heat on the lower level goons, but you could be nice and call and say, hey, I just wanted to call and support Michael Large. Could I speak with him for a few minutes? And then they'll say, no, he's not allowed to leave his room. And you say, okay, well, I think that's wrong, and I'm going to be calling your boss right as soon as I hang up the phone. I think that's a good way to do it. And then you call Mr. Merlis, the CEO of the hospital, and you say, I'm being treated rudely by your staff at the nursing station. I want to speak to Michael Large. Why is he being denied a Bible? What do you people have to hide? Why can't you at least give the guy a Bible? This is really a low blow. And this is another reason to call the Archbishop. Hey, Archbishop, Chaput. Hey, Mr. Vicar General, Timothy Sr., why is this guy being denied a Bible? Why are we calling the Archbishop's office? Because the man who's incarcerated is being denied his Holy Bible. If you're a man of God, Mr. Vicar General, Mr. Archbishop, you priest, get involved. You ought to be concerned about this. Why are they so scared they can't give the guy a Bible? A great reason to call the Archbishop right there. They're giving us excuses to call every 5 minutes. So don't tell me, why would we call the Archbishop about this? Because the guy's being denied a Bible. Isn't the Archbishop about the Bible? Make him squirm. So anyway, with that, I'm going to give out the number for Michael's, the floor where Michael is staying. But you got to be nice when you call people. Just call in support of Michael. Ask to speak with him nicely. If they say no, tell them you're going to call their boss next because you don't like the fact he's being denied phone calls, and you don't like the fact he's being denied a Bible. So call 215-481-2000. This is an easy one. 215, same area code as the other numbers. This is in Pennsylvania. 215-481-2000. That's 215-481-2000. And that's gets you really close to where Michael is. But from my phone call there tonight, they weren't letting him out. They weren't giving him the phone. They weren't giving him nothing. They wouldn't even give him a HIPAA release form so he could have people, discuss his case with his psychiatrist and his social worker. They're shutting him right down at every turn, and that's wrong. They're stacking the deck against him, and they're violating their own rules. Go ahead, Romola.
Oh, it was Heidi. I was just going to say that they gave me the third degree. They literally asked me, what's the reason for the call? Calls are being screened, they said. And they actually, when I was kind of flabbergasted and didn't know what to say, and I couldn't believe that I had to explain myself, and she actually told me that, she goes, what did she say? She basically told me, why don't you wait until after he's released from the hospital to reach out to him? Yeah, she said, why don't you reach out to him after he's released from the hospital? It was pretty awful.
That is pretty twisted on their part. We're reaching out because he's not out yet. But now, the only thing that just occurred to me, Heidi, is they may be contemplating his release in the very near future. And that may be part of the reason. I'm hoping that, now I'm just dreaming a little bit. I'm trying to be optimistic here, look at the glass half full instead of half empty. But that may be a sign that they're about to release him, but we're not counting on that, and I don't want anybody assuming anything because this is the game they play. They try to make you think, well, he's okay, he'll probably be released soon, or, things are, they'll try to make you think that he's going to be getting out so people stop calling. And as soon as people stop calling, he's screwed. They'll keep him forever. I know this happens. So the only thing he's going to get is public practice. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll just add that if you call, that's the main number. And so I don't know if I should give out, should I give out any more details about his location in the hospital, or like the wing number or anything, or?
Absolutely.
Here I am. I was muted. Yeah, go ahead. And
should I give out the wing number?
Yes, ma'am. You do that.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I don't know if you guys were giving out his, because he's got a room number, but the main number, you can ask for him and stuff, but sometimes, so I wasn't getting any answer. I wasn't getting anywhere when I did that, so then I called and I asked for the nurse's station, which is, he's in 4 Widener West. So 4WW is kind of what they call it for short, 4 Widener West, 4WW.
Okay, so let's repeat that. So, Michael, if you call the Abington Hospital at that number we just gave, you want 4WW, which stands for 4 Wagner West, and it's
Wagner West, yeah. Excuse me, that's because they were making him use the nurse's station phone. So that's why going to getting his room phone didn't lead anywhere because he didn't actually have a room phone. So then I called and
they're lying to us, telling us that he has a phone in his room and he doesn't. They took his cell phone. So you getting this, people? They kidnap an honorable veteran for telling the truth. They take him to a psychiatric hospital. They lock him in a room for 24 hours a day. They take his cell phone away from him. They don't allow him to leave the room to talk to anybody who calls to talk to him, and they won't give him any release forms to allow the staff at the hospital to talk with his people. So now they just say, well, he has privacy and he doesn't have a release form, and so we can't talk to you. And so they're hiding behind his privacy rights by not giving us any information. So I challenge people to get what they can. Call the C. This is why we have to call the chief executive officer, the guy who runs the whole hospital. It's called the CEO, chief executive officer. He's like the president of the hospital. He's the one that's responsible for holding this man unlawfully. He's the one that really needs to get the heat. But I do agree with Heidi and Romola that it would be nice if a bunch of calls went up to the nursing station at 4 Wagner West at Abington Hospital, where Michael is actually being held. Just be really nice. I don't want to.
Yes. Can I add one quick thing, please?
Huh?
Oh, can I add one small detail? That
sure.
Just to clarify that when I spoke to him earlier today, he told me that they were treating him well, though. It's just that he told me what was going on, and of course I'm asking questions, but it was a fairly mellow conversation. And then I wasn't panicking or having him panic. Everything was calm. I was just wanting to know, what are they giving you? What are they doing? And then it was the second time that I called that the nurse was kind of, acting strange and kind of, I don't know.
Well, I'm sure they're
not
starting
very friendly.
Right. Well, here's what's happening. They're starting to feel the heat. And when they start to feel the heat, they get nervous. They start to panic. They start to freeze up a little bit. They get a little more rude and short with people. They start restricting his privileges, and things get sticky. That's actually a good sign because it means they're starting to get worried. And eventually, they're going to cave in. People, I've been doing this for a while. It happens every time. They will always cave in. It's just a matter of time. But there has to be a lot of public pressure. And if there is, it's a slam dunk. Every time we'll win. They always cave in. They cannot stand the public pressure. But there has to be that pressure there for it to happen. And we can have 100% victories on all these cases. And it may be you people out there someday, I'll reiterate, it could be you or me. Anytime that gets scooped up like this is getting dangerously close to everyone. And they're just picking and choosing people they want to grab. It could be people of influence. It could be people who are nobody. So it doesn't matter who you are. We all need to get involved on this, or else it's going to come for us or our children. And if it comes for our children and they know that we as parents did nothing to try to stop it, they're going to be spitting on our graves, and rightfully so. So I encourage people, if you're not going to do it for yourself, do it for your kids, and do it now. Get involved with this case for Michael Large. I know Heidi he thinks they're treating him well, but are they really treating him well? They got him held in a room. They won't let him talk on the phone. They won't give him a Bible. They won't give him the release form. You know what I mean? I think they got him.
Yeah.
He's a nice guy that he's not going to say anything negative. And this is why I want to get this guy out, because he's a sweetheart of a guy. He's not anybody that's going to hurt anybody. You're not coming to the defense of some jerk or some rapist. This is a nice guy. This is a guy who served his country for 4 years in the Air Force. This is a guy who didn't harm anybody. He tried to go into the system to get some feedback and get some, bring evidence of government corruption to the powers that be, and they don't like that. and they really made certain people very uncomfortable, his information. And so they tried to label him delusional, and there he sits now, not knowing when he's going to get out. And so I really feel bad for this guy. I mean, I'm going to have trouble sleeping tonight knowing that this guy's locked in a room. I think we should all think long and hard, make some phone calls this weekend, fill up some voicemail boxes, and then next week do follow-up calls several times next week, and just to make sure that they let him go. I think they're going to let him go. Once again, they always cave in, just a matter of time, but there has to be a lot of pressure. That's why I'm counting on all our listeners and followers out there to get involved with this ASAP. So, Romola, can you post this call on as many venues as you can? This is going to be a public, kind of a public broadcast, so to speak. We do it in our conference call format. That way we can bring in some extra people, and it's easy that way. So Daniel's going to have this posted. He's going to send you either a PDF or a link, or I don't know how you do it technically, but get this call posted up and get as many people hearing it as you possibly can. It may give some valuable information to people for their own case, and of course we're encouraging them to get involved with Michael's case. Once again, the man's name is Micheal Large, Large. It's in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. We're calling the Archbishop of Philadelphia, the CEO of the hospital, Mr. Merlis. It's Abington Hospital, Abington, Abington, and it's in Pennsylvania. So people, please get involved. Romola, anything else? Did we lose Romola?
I'm not quite sure if we did lose her.
Oh, I'm ready to go, but thank you. No, thank you very much, Eric. And I think it's, feel free to send me the link. I'll be happy to post it. Yeah.
Great. Awesome work. Thank you, Romola. Thank you, Ms. Powers. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Dave Pruitt. Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you.
Heidi, you've been great on this. And thanks for bringing this case to my attention. This is a really important case.
Sure.
And Daniel, thank you so much for going on so late with this. I know I took time away from you and you and your lovely lady there, Teresa, and I appreciate her being there as well, allowing you to spare this time to help out somebody in need.
Well, I know Teresa's listening and watching right now, and she appreciates your comments there, Eric. So I just also want to thank everybody on the program tonight for your participation. We are going to post your links. We're going to be posting your videos. If you send me that information, Eric, we're going to be posting all the phone numbers on studio1776.org. We are banned on Facebook. All right? So studio1776.org or pound studio1776.org. It's Eric, the Freedom Screamer of Courtroom Watch. I want to thank you tonight for watching, for participating in this program this evening. We are definitely going to be putting up the Micheal Large, how would you say his program tonight? And I just want to say one more time, thank you for everybody for watching the program and supporting the single parents, helping single parents. We appreciate and thank everybody here this evening for listening to the program. Eric, one more time, thank you so much for allowing Studio1776.org for broadcasting this program. I thank you so much for everybody else for participating, and we're looking forward to more information from courtroomwatch.com.
Thank you, Daniel. Good night, everybody.
Good night.